This is Liberty Underground with Alex Snicker, Danielle Alexandra, and Greg Bowen on the 1787 Radio Network.
Well, good morning, Tampa Bay, St. Petersburg, Clearwater, the entire state of Utah, everybody in Zimbabwe. Hopefully you're doing well and not having your head chopped off or anything like that. This is Alex, co-host, Liberty Underground, along with me, the Duchess of Doing Stuff, my own personal Wikipedia, Tripoli's favorite libertarian, Danielle Alexandre. How are you doing, Danielle?
I'm doing well this morning.
You doing well?
I am.
That's good to hear you doing good. It's good to hear you doing good, huh? Also in the studio this morning, he is the Prime Minister of all things that are the sinister. His name is Greg Bowen. Greg, how are you doing, sir?
Peachy.
Peachy, huh?
You wanted me to change it up. I'm changing it up
on you.
You know, you did change it up, though. That's true. You did change it up, so I can't really say anything because you changed it up. How are you doing?
Peachy. Clearly, Alex is paying attention more to his computer than what he's talking about.
I'm sorry. Somebody's trying to share the show. All right, somebody's trying to share the damn show. Well, hopefully everybody's having a good week. A lot to go over today, actually, though, if you think about it. There is a ton of stuff to go over today.
Yes, there is. It's actually just very in-depth topics. There's just not a lot of them.
Well, no. I would agree. I wasn't saying that to be. I wasn't saying that to be jerky or anything like that.
Right.
I'm saying there's just a lot to go over.
Right.
Which we'll have to get started right away.
Okay.
Let's start with if you want to call the program, Refresh Telecom line, 1-800-525-4032. Refresh Telecom, 1-800-525-4032. Let's start with net neutrality, Danielle. Can you take us, can you lead us off in that one?
Sure. The FCC ruled yesterday, actually, that they will have new rules for the internet, basically, and for anyone who uses the internet, because, if it's not broke, the government needs to come in and fix it and break it.
Yeah.
Which is basically what this is. I mean, it was a problem that nobody was complaining about. The thought behind it, what people were trying to sell this as is, we just have to make sure that everyone has access to the internet, which, you kind of have to sit back and say, but who doesn't have access to the internet?
Like, seriously, who doesn't have access to the internet? I mean, what's the beef here?
It's not about internet access. It's about the control of the internet.
Right. Well, and that's what it is. So, but they tried to sell this as we just have to make sure everybody has access to the internet. Well, everyone had access to the internet. So they created a problem out of thin air that didn't exist. Nobody was complaining. Nobody was saying anything about this, that they were having issues with the internet. But the government decided to come in and save us all from a problem that we weren't having.
Yeah, we were.
Well, look, give me the what was their beef, though?
Their beef is actually with some of the internet service providers like Comcast and Time Warner, Netflix, and other things like that. Basically, and this is something where the rules that they're setting have not been made public yet. So they voted on a set of rules that they would not tell the public what they were voting on.
Who voted on a set of rules?
The FCC.
And how does the FCC have... Here's the thing. How does the FCC have jurisdiction over the World Wide Web?
Well, they wouldn't have it over the World Wide Web. They would only have it over the internet here in the U.S. and for any providers of internet service in the U.S.
Liberty Underground show.
Okay. So it's what is going on here is that the FCC is now it's not the internet, it's the access to the internet that they felt was a utility.
Yes, and that is what they're defining it as. Now, all all internet service providers like Comcast, Time Warner, and people like that are going to Verizon are going to be considered utilities, and they somewhat were in the phone service area, and now they will be in the internet service, which is, when we started regulating phone service, landlines, to the point where, the prices were raising and things like that, and people were having with landlines, and, we ended up with a new technology like the cell phone, and no one needed a landline anymore. And, now you see your cell phone service, it went from being very expensive to have a cell phone, when they first came out, to the prices dropping way down, to now prices going up again. And a lot of that has to do with just, government involvement. So now you're going to, and I'm not saying government was always involved in regulating the internet industry. These service providers, it wasn't like they weren't regulated. They were, but now they're going to be more regulated. And what they're basically saying is that everything should be considered the same. So, what it is that, that government should treat all data on the internet equally, that there shouldn't be charging difference by user, content, site, platform, application, type of attached equipment, or the modes of communication. That's basically what the FCC has come out. This is what they're saying, is that the internet service providers and government should treat all data on the internet equally.
Well, they should treat all data equally. So, like, if you pay for more connection, you shouldn't get it?
No, let me explain to you why something needed to be done. Here's the reality. The internet was going to change. Whether anybody liked it or not, the internet was changing. It was not the same place that it has been. And here's what we were seeing. ISPs like Comcast were limiting what you were allowed to see on the internet. Let me give you an example of what we would see in the future if nothing was done. I'm not saying that what the government is doing is necessarily a good thing, but this is how the internet was changing if we did nothing.
All right.
Comcast, say the CEO of Comcast was busted in a hotel room with hookers and blow. If you have Comcast as your internet service provider or any of their subsidiaries, they could block all news stories relating to this. So no matter where you searched for it, what you did, whether one of your friends on Facebook posted it who has Verizon and could see that news story, or whether you searched for it on Google or whatever, you will not find that news story anywhere. You will not be able to load it up because Comcast can limit the data that is going to come to you. Anyone who is under their service can be limited.
But other
they can
people
also
not on their service would receive it.
Right.
Okay.
But the thing is, all of the ISPs could do that. You change Comcast to Verizon, and then if you're a Verizon customer, the same thing. Also, what they were going to start doing, and what we were starting to see, was almost an a la carte internet. Internet was going to become very much like your cable service, where you get what your internet service, it's almost going back to like AOL was. You get what your internet service provider says you can have, and everything else you don't get. So like your cable company, you get the channels that your cable company offers. A new channel comes up. I'm sure you see it now. Call your local cable company and tell them to add this network. If the internet service provider doesn't want you to get YouTube, for example, if YouTube isn't paying your ISP so they can be allowed on their network, you won't get YouTube anymore.
But I can go to a different service provider that does have YouTube. And I think that's where I disagree with you, is because, yes, I think that the company should be able to do that, because it's my choice as a consumer to go with a company that doesn't use those practices, and that the companies that are the most fair and the ones that, I don't believe in getting government into markets ever.
I don't believe that the government is the solution, but unfortunately the markets weren't solved. Unfortunately, the mess that we have in our world and our country in general is the corporations and the government being in bed with each other and controlling everything.
And
And you
this
wouldn't
just
have the
solidified it.
here's the thing, you wouldn't have the option. You couldn't go to a better ISP. You would just go to a different ISP
Right.
with different limitations.
Right.
So
and
you're
until
still
I
not
found the one that worked for me.
you're not going to though. That's the thing. You won't get one.
Yeah, I disagree with you on this one. I
Hold-
mean, vehemently disagree with you.
hold on.
This is exactly what Europe did, and and when you go to Europe, all internet is slow, it's expensive. They're still doing this, they're just doing it government sponsored. Getting government involved doesn't solve this issue.
Hold on a second. So was this
Yes.
with who?
Mostly with Comcast. That's why
What was
Comcast
Comcast
is the
doing?
name
What were they
that
doing?
comes up here. It's been a while since I've read these stories because this has been happening for like 10 years.
Yeah.
And Comcast is the worst offender. So I'm trying to pull up some. I've got like 3 things going on at the same time. And we had a caller that dropped as well.
Oh, what happened?
Well, we were having this conversation. I was trying to wait to bring the caller in until we at least establish what
dropped?
we're. Yeah, he hung up. Call back in.
Oh, sorry. So I'm still trying to figure out. Like, I've never had a problem. I've never even heard of a problem.
And
And I would have thought I would have heard of that.
And I do think that when you had a government monopoly, when you had this government created territories for internet, then that was a problem. But we don't have that anymore. I have several internet providers that I can choose from. This is not something that I have to go through. You used to have the territories where, you could only get internet through Comcast if you were in a Comcast location. And that's not what's going on. And in fact, even that was a government created problem where you can't put more government to fix that. You need to take government out to fix that.
Well, my point is the internet was going to change regardless of what anybody wanted, whether the government got involved or whether you left it as it is. The internet as we know it was going to change. I don't necessarily agree that getting the government involved is the solution,
Right.
but people realized that something had to be done, and this is what happened.
But something didn't necessarily have to be done, though, right?
I don't believe so, no.
Greg, something didn't.
No,
I know. I know.
he's
I know
trying to
you're-
go to a
Yes.
call.
you're
Yes,
trying to take a
yes,
call?
something
He's
something
trying-
had to be done one way or another.
Oh, okay.
I don't necessarily agree that the government was the way to do it, but the internet was going to change one way or the other. It already was.
But the internet wasn't changing. You're just talking about the way the providers were
the
treating
way
content.
providers were streaming content, not the internet
was changing.
itself.
Well,
I mean, doesn't
what,
that have
the
more to do
internet
with-
as you know it was changing. What you were going to be able to access was going to change. Already had been.
Well, it
you
wasn't
you,
changing.
you may not have experienced it yourself, but it already had changed because ISPs were already doing it. This legislation came about. This wasn't something that there was no problem that they created.
What I said was, did a problem that nobody was complaining about.
No, people were complaining about it though.
Until net neutrality came up, I'd never heard of what you're talking about.
It's fine if you were unaware of it, but
Yeah.
that doesn't mean that it didn't exist.
Well, it meant that people weren't complaining enough for anyone to notice.
Oh, I noticed. I've been following this for years. I mean, it's okay if you don't know about it,
No,
but that
I've-
doesn't mean that
I've
it
been
didn't
following
exist.
net neutrality since the government has started talking about it several years ago. But up until that point, I had no idea that there was a problem because nobody was talking about it enough for anyone to know that there was a problem. Until government stepped in and said, we're going to start looking at net neutrality,
Yeah.
which happened several years ago.
Well, I guess we're going to see what happens because these guys went ahead and did it, huh?
Well, yeah, and these are rules that we have no idea what the rules are, even now. It's
So, like, hold on. So
300 pages that nobody knows.
Did 300 pages worth of rules and nobody's seen them?
No, they would not release them publicly before the vote. And even now that the vote has happened, they still have not released them.
What? Hey, do we have a caller?
He was calling, and I got talking, and
Oh,
so
hold on. Call back
he'll
again.
need
I'm
to call
sorry.
back in.
So let me get this straight. They have now changed. The government has changed the definition or the rules amongst what the internet is to make it a utility, right?
Mhm, yes,
Which means that it's got to be the same for everybody.
right. which
Now-
never works, by the way.
Well, yeah.
I mean, for example, Netflix paid both Comcast and Verizon to get more bandwidth dedicated to their streams. So if you were on an ISP other than Comcast and Verizon, you probably noticed that your Netflix streams sucked. But if you have Verizon and Comcast, then your Netflix works great. But you pay for Netflix and the internet. And if you're paying an internet service provider that isn't cutting a deal with Netflix, then you're getting a half internet.
Yeah, but if I don't use Netflix, I don't care. And that's the thing is, I still had a choice. You know, I don't use Netflix. If I wanted to go with Time Warner or Bright House in my area, because you know, because I didn't use Netflix, so maybe Time Warner was cheaper, and you know, I'm not using Netflix, so what do I care if Netflix streams faster on Verizon, because I don't use it. But that's my choice as a consumer. The government coming in and saying, well, Netflix shouldn't be able to do that with anyone, I think is absurd.
So doesn't this mean, though, that all of it's going to suck more, though?
Pretty much. In my opinion, yes.
Like, won't this stifle innovation and not help innovation?
Government intrusion always does.
At this point, you know what? I'll tell you what it is. I'm almost feeling at this point that we have to literally start now getting rid of other things. Like, now we got to get rid of the FCC.
Well, I've always said we should get rid of the FCC.
Well, no, I agree that we always should have got rid of it, but I didn't feel the same urgency in eliminating the FCC as I do now, though. Like, if they're going to make the rules of these unelected bureaucrats, then let's just get rid of the boards that they serve on. Like, okay, FCC, where you're going to have to go away now.
All right, we've got two callers, one on hold, one's on the line now. Here's our first caller.
I know that. You know what? I know net neutrality is going to get rid of the chicken dance, and I apologize in advance for not being able to use the chicken dance later on. Here.
The two words to keep in mind on this, and the problem that we had before this additional problem with the secret regulations that we don't even know about, those two words are called regulatory capture. Now, Wikipedia is not good for everything, but it is good for that subject. Go look it up, because it's what is happening. It's what has happened already. And the bet I am making with my Democrat friends is the following. Will we have more corporate concentration 5 years from now after these Obama network neutrality rules? Doesn't matter if it becomes Hillary or Jeb. Will we have more corporate concentration and more government control or less than now? My prediction is more, and nobody wants to take that bet.
Well, I got to tell you, if I was a betting man, and I am, I would not take that bet either, because I think that James is saying it exactly right. What you've done, in essence, is take the control. You know, here's what it is. I think that the politicians were mad because of the competition. See, YouTube or Netflix was paying Verizon, right? Mm-hmm. Well, now YouTube is going to pay the FCC.
Right.
Yep.
Exactly. And now it's going to go to the highest bidder, to the government.
But you don't have another place to go to at that point. Like, you don't have a Comcast to go to or away from a Comcast over to Verizon or something like that. That they're going to be the ones, because somebody was getting a cut of some money that they thought that they were entitled to. So they needed to make sure that they set up the rules to get that cut.
Because companies were paying each other to provide better service to consumers, and government wasn't getting paid to do that.
Because one thing that...
Government wasn't getting their bribe.
Here's the thing. When we were talking about this in the beginning, what they were saying is and again, this is... Look, I'm not trying to trounce on Greg here this morning. That is not my intention. Greg, I love you. Let me just say that right off the bat. But saying that we're going to make sure that Netflix works better and that we're going to dedicate more time to it isn't the same as we're going to stop YouTube from working. Like, we're going to ban YouTube. So what Comcast was doing was, all Comcast was doing was they were taking money to offer Netflix better bandwidth. Is that all that they were doing? Like, they weren't actually hiding articles like you were talking about, right?
It has happened.
It has happened.
It has happened. There has been information on the internet that has been limited to people under the Comcast ISP.
Not in North, and this is not in North Korea. This is here.
This is here in the
America.
United States
In
of America.
All right.
And
Not involved in blow, right?
Was that,
it did not involve hookers and blow.
It did not involve hookers and blow.
I just love using hookers and blow.
Well, I know it is fun to use though. I'm sorry, James. Go ahead, Charco. Go ahead with the rest of your comments, sir.
Well, I didn't have that much, but it's just great to see you guys on the air. I hope Adrian calls in so you can abuse him.
He's actually on hold.
He's on hold.
I'll hang up now.
All right, thanks, brother.
All righty. So I'll go ahead and bring Adrian.
Bring Adrian on then. Let's bring Adrian on. Adrian's the internet guy on this one. Danielle, I'm with you on this, by the way.
Yeah,
I'm with you on this. I'm on your side.
I understand.
All right, I'm going to bring you on the line.
Touch me. There you
We're
go.
very far away now with the
I
new
know,
studio.
but I can touch you though. If you,
Yeah,
you know what it is?
it's like fingertips.
This ensures that there's any touching going on that is completely voluntary. Because I can only go this far.
I have to
you
come
have to go the
halfway.
rest of the way. You got to meet me halfway. on
Again,
this.
understand what I'm saying here. I'm not saying what happened was the right solution. I'm saying the internet was going to change whether anyone liked it or not, and whether it was what we got now with the government stepping in, or whether the ISPs and the corporations changing it as we know it, it was going to change. I'm not saying that this is the best solution. I'm saying that it was going to change one way or another.
I think market demand changes a market better than government intrusion.
Governments and corporations determine too much of the markets for the markets to be as free to get the result that you're talking about.
And
Well, but
this
the
just
re-
made it worse, though.
But the reason,
I can agree with that.
well, and some of the reasons for this though is a lot of the franchise. Is it franchise law as it goes towards cable companies?
Well,
Territory restrictions,
Yeah,
things
and
like
that,
that?
but that's something that has been lifted, and it was lifted a long time ago. So I mean, listen, we do have choices here. Where in this area, we used to only have Time Warner. Now we have Time Warner. We have Verizon. We have a couple others that are not to the same level. But so we do have choices here. And in all honesty, I can, choose a completely wireless Wi-Fi through a cell phone company and not do business with either one of them. So I mean, we
Satellite.
we have choices and where we used to not have choices. So the market is getting more. We should have been getting more to market demand instead of government control, which is where we were getting to about a decade ago, and now we're back to the government needs to control it.
But that's the thing. Here for you have choices. Not everyone does. My mother-in-law lives in a place where there is one ISP.
But that's because there's
one
but
ISP. That's it.
But that's because there aren't companies that have gone in there. It's not because there's a government regulation prohibiting it.
Well, actually,
It's
I
because
believe
the market hasn't demanded.
I believe that they are limited because of contracts that are done, that they have exclusivity in that area.
That is not.
And that again, it goes back to my point that we don't have free markets to let the markets decide, because the governments and the corporations control everything, and the markets are not free enough for the market to self-correct the way that a free market would, because it's not a free market.
But putting more government in just solidifies that. It doesn't fix the problem.
I agree with that. That's I'm saying that this is not the solution, but everything was going to change whether we liked it or not, and it necessarily get better. It was actually going to get very much more expensive for the end user.
But I think it needed to do that so that we would get a solution. And that's the thing is what we're disagreeing with when you're saying something had to be done. No, I don't believe something had to be done. I think it needed to have a course where the market corrected itself. And we didn't get that, and that's what happens when we get government intrusion. And then we end up at a standstill where we have no innovation, we have nothing getting better. We're not going to see, new technology because government has stepped in and stifled that.
I disagree with that.
Creative destruction is a good thing.
It wasn't going to happen that way. What you would have, if this didn't happen, what you would get is you would have about 67 bills that you pay per month to get all the internet services that you want. You wouldn't be paying just an ISP.
Until a company came in and said that we want to fix, we'll be the one to fix that.
They wouldn't have that option. But we do have another caller on the line.
Adrian, me Rocky.
Adrian, you're on the air.
Hey, Danielle,
Yeah.
virtual high five. You're absolutely right on the money. And Greg is partially right that this was becoming a problem. However, there are very easy solutions to it. It has to do with tech side of stuff, changing DNS records and things like that. But if it wasn't for the leftover regulations that are still remnants of the old telco regulations, we wouldn't have this problem. We would actually have many more choices in the market. And like you said, someone would be saying, hey, tired of Netflix being slow on Comcast? Come to us, or what have you. But by adding more and yet unknown regulations, absolutely we will be making the problem worse, because we've shifted a segment of government control from the bad corporations to the worst federal government. Whereas the right solution is to eliminate all the remaining telco regulations that still exist and let the free market solve the problem. And Greg, the reason that it wouldn't have happened fast enough, the reason that these internet service providers are doing this thing is because they know your choices are, for broadband at least, very limited because of government regulation.
Well,
if that government regulation didn't exist, your choices would be virtually unlimited, and you would have the choice, and they would not be able to throttle bandwidth on certain sites because they think they can get a better deal, because the market forces would punish them for that. And the other thing that I have a real problem with is, on this regulation, is the fact that, A, we have no idea what's in it at this point. So we're really, debating over something that no one has any idea. 3 people, 3 members of the FCC, unelected, unaccountable, are the ones that implemented this rule without any oversight from the people, without any accountability, and without any ramifications for their actions. And I find that to be probably the most egregious violation of a representative republic that you can have.
First off, I like that Adrian used the word throttle. Go ahead, Greg.
Well, actually, I mean, I totally agree with what you're saying, Adrian, and that is my point. You're kind of articulating a little better than I am. My point is that because of the regulations for the telco companies, we can't just correct it with the market without doing anything. And again, I want to reiterate my point that I don't agree that this is the right solution. But I do understand the issue to know that something had to be done. And it is because of the involvement of the government already, the control that corporations have already, that we can't just leave it alone, not do anything, and expect the market to correct itself. The market would change, and we would have a very different internet from how we know it now. We would have an a la carte internet where we are paying so much to so many providers to get all the services that we get now just by paying one ISP, that it would be completely different from how we understand it. And I agree with you 100% that the real solution is getting rid of the government and the ability for corporations to buy government control. If we had the libertarian society that we all advocate for, this wouldn't be an issue. The market could correct itself and we would have the right solution. But we don't live in that world.
Okay.
Well, here's the thing.
Hold on, Adrian. Adrian, hold on real quick. Let me just say something here real quick. Like, I almost want to understand your point, Greg. Like, I almost want to understand your point here. But it starts just with the basic premise of, like, you realize that it was the government that screwed it up, and the doing of something that would fix it is the opposite of what they did. They actually did something to make it worse, not to make it better, though. Like, I know that they can say that, everything's all good and this is what we're doing it for, and we're going to do it to be able to do all these things. But the only thing that's changing is who the telecom company's got to write the check to, though. Like right now, the YouTube or Netflix is writing the check to the telecom company, right? Well, now they're going to have to write that check to a government official instead. Like, they're going to have to pay off politicians in order to get the special treatment. But now the special treatment, hold on. But now that special treatment is everywhere and mandated. Like, it's what you had with Comcast was one internet service provider. Now, and you could go somewhere else. Now it's all of them and it's mandated. Like, it's a barrel of a gun. I'm gonna shoot you in the head if you don't do it my way, or we'll shut you down. Like now, you've given them the ability to just shut things down, which I really hope and pray that they actually do it. Like I really, really, really want them to shut the internet down because I can't think of a better way to increase the membership in the Libertarian Party than for the government to shut the internet down. Like in some ways, I'm happy that the FCC is now in control of this. You are going to be making millions of more libertarians because we are going to explain to people exactly how bad you've geeked this thing up.
But we're gonna have to go door to door.
Okay, I advocate for that anyway, so that doesn't ruin my plans. So I'm good there. People are going to want to answer the door because they're going to want to figure out why their internet ain't working.
Because they're not gonna be on
I
Facebook.
think we should infiltrate the telecom companies and go door to door.
I'm Greg. I'm here from the Libertarian Party to tell you why your internet is down.
Hold on. Go ahead, Adrian.
Well, I was just going to say is the more far-reaching implications here are that we've just allowed the FCC's foot in the door, and this is going to have far-reaching implications for decades and decades. And it could very well. I mean, what has the FCC shown that they will do over anything that they have control over? They will censor it to quote-unquote community standards. That's why you can't have certain things shown on broadcast TV. That's why you can't have certain things said on the radio. I mean, we all know it, being in the radio industry, that you can't say certain things on the air. And if you do, the FCC is going to fine you big money. And if you do it repeatedly, they're going to shut you down. Now, how those implications eventually play out to the internet, we could be facing a broad-reaching range of censorship. Also, consider this, that all television now and all radio actually ends up broadcasting through the internet. So they're all being digitized and sent through packets and through servers across the networks. So essentially, everything that is, quote-unquote, sent across the internet is now under the control of the FCC. Prior to that, it was only things that actually went out over the public airwaves, the frequencies of broadcast television stations and the frequencies of radio broadcast stations. Now, everything is digitized. Everything goes through the internet. And that's why, like back in the day, why, NBC, ABC couldn't show boobies on, but yet HBO and Cinemax could, because they were being broadcast through a different medium. Rather than being broadcast out over the air. We've just given the FCC the authority to control everything, and we didn't give it to them. 3 unelected people took it.
Took it. That's a very good word for it. Took it is probably a very, very, very good word for what these guys have done. And again, I understand that Greg is not advocating that they do this. So let me just go ahead and say right off the bat, Greg, I understand that you don't like necessarily what they did.
Okay.
Right,
But
I understand that
But I
part.
will say is this though, is that, Greg, all of us have our quirks, or all of us have our things, and that, Greg, the beautiful thing about you, Greg, is that you really don't like corporations, and that's a nice thing for you. I just think that sometimes you have an anti-corporation hammer, and you're looking for an anti-corporation nail.
No, that's not that. I despise
I'm allowed to
collectives.
have my opinion, Greg.
You can have your opinion. It's wrong. No, it's not
Hey,
just.
wait a second. Hey, Greg, at this point, you can file an FCC complaint against Alex for butthurt.
Yes, yes. I have butthurt forms to fill out here, and I'm gonna send in like
Let's get
3
that
on
taken
now.
care of.
No, it's not corporations, it's collectives. And that's the basis of libertarian thought. Collectives destroy the freedoms of the individual. Collectives trounce individuals. And whether it's a government or a corporation or a church, I don't trust any of them. I don't like any of them, and I want to limit their power as much as possible. So it's not just corporations. Corporations are a part of that. But it's not just corporations.
I got you. All right. Adrian, hold on. Danielle, do you have anything else to say about this?
No.
You good here?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, what about you, Greg? You good here?
Nah, I'm good.
All right, what about Adrian? Adrian, are you good?
I'm out.
No, I don't want you out yet. Though. Stay for a couple minutes, though.
Oh, okay.
I
All
want to
right.
go to
I'll
another
just-
subject.
I only got a few more minutes, though.
Okay. Have you seen the Gary Johnson clip yet?
No.
Oh my God, it's so
okay.
funny.
All right.
You want me to do the first one?
Do the first one.
Are you watching on YouTube right now, Adrian?
I can't talk on the phone and watch it on YouTube, so
Okay, hold on.
I'll mute my phone and listen.
Okay, listen. So yeah, go ahead and listen. Then I'll tell you what Gary is doing while this is going on. So let's hear this reverse. He's on a.
Well, I'm gonna put it on screen as well.
All right, you can do that. But he's at CPAC, and he is in a drug policy debate.
You have a 1 in 5, a higher chance of having a heart attack within the first hour after you smoke marijuana.
I've got a lag,
There
though.
are legitimate side effects of this drug. The THC in the 60s, you know, I think the governor has had great fun with his humor, but it isn't funny that we're putting our kids and the future of this country at risk. It's not funny. It is something that we as Americans have got to pay attention to.
Okay, what Gary Johnson did, if you didn't see it, Adrian, he faked a heart attack and fell out of his chair.
Literally gripped his heart and just
Gripped
fell
his heart
on the
and
floor.
fell on the floor.
I'm watching it now. That's awesome.
He pulled a Sanford and Son.
Look. Okay.
I'm coming.
Okay, first off, you know what? That woman's right. Those things aren't funny. And the fact that you would try to make such a bullcrap argument
Right.
when it came to legalization of marijuana. Look, her argument means we need to get rid of, like, cholesterol and sugar and definitely tobacco, definitely coffee, which I'm sure that bitch had in the morning. We have to get rid of all of these things.
Because they all increase
Because
your risk of heart
all
attack.
of them will increase your risk of heart attack. To be honest with you, we need to de-stress the entire population.
Exactly. No
because
more horror.
that-
No more horror movies.
no horror movies.
No more house. You know, what are they? The haunted houses at Halloween. You're not allowed to have them.
Get rid of those. We need a house. We need a haunted house FCC now that this woman would make. Look, here's my thought here. The first thing I looked at when I saw that was, man, I really don't want the libertarian candidate for president. I know he hasn't signed up officially yet, but my first thought was, I really don't want that guy doing faking a heart attack on a stage and falling down.
But then I made the point.
If you say something that ridiculous, you should get a response that.
And I'm, honestly, I'm totally on that. And here's the thing. This is what I think Gary Johnson is making abundantly clear. And I know we're not supposed to say this out loud technically. And I'm sure you guys are going to get mad that I say this. The odds of our candidate for president winning the presidency is really, 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 really low. So Gary Johnson's not necessarily running to win. And if you're not running to win, that does free you up to do things like this.
Yeah.
So more power to you. I fully support you faking a heart attack on stage. I here's the thing. I support the fact that when somebody sounds like a joke, that you treat them that way. And that lady was a joke.
What do you think, Adrian?
Well, I think that candidates for office should have a sense of humor. I think that it's appropriate to mock things in the right environment. I think Gary is just doing that. I think that's a great way to go. And I think that part of the problem is in this country is that we look at our candidates for office, our politicians, and put them on kind of some weird pedestal, like they're not, human beings. They're supposed to be above it, and it's disgusting to me. I think it's great that Gary did that. I like to use whenever possible. I did it in my campaign when I could get away with it, but that's part of the problem that we have. And Alex, I'm a little concerned that you're starting to sound like a.
No. Hold on a second here.
We don't run.
Hold on a second.
Because of who what I stand for. I don't want to win because I put on this persona of being something that I'm not. And so I think that the goal for him is to win or to get as many votes possible to win. So I don't think it's necessarily he's not going to run to win. I think he is running to win. But I think that he's looking, I have nothing to lose.
No. And I think to say was he was running like he has nothing to lose. And hang on a second here. I think that there's a wide difference between using humor and faking a heart attack and rolling on the ground. All right? There's a big difference between the two. It's really, look, don't get me
It
wrong.
was funny every time in Sanford and Son.
No.
I mean, they used that shtick every episode, and it was still funny.
No. It will always be funny that it's happening. I'm not going to say it.
It's a joke.
Hey, wait a second. Gerald Ford did it extremely effectively during his presidency.
Oh my God. I mean, again, I'm with you on this one, by the way. That look, I'm totally, I'm with you on this, though. I mean, at the end of the day, I looked at it. I laid out what I thought was.
I just think
Somebody just called me Captain Obvious for saying that, there's a small chance of our candidate winning the election. Thank you, Captain Obvious. Which, I understand, but I mean, I like that. I think Gary is going to run probably a better campaign now if he does decide to run for the office because of this, though.
Oh, I think it's going to be fun. Honestly, the last few videos and comments that I've seen from him, I think that he is really going at this of, I'm in this to win, but I have nothing to lose. And really, I think it's, and he did say in an interview that it's not a done deal, so he can't say that he will be on the ballot as the Libertarian candidate, but he's certainly going to seek the nomination. But I am predicting that he will get it, and I cannot wait to be on the Gary Johnson campaign here in Florida, because I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
You see my hat this morning.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well.
Yeah, you guys see my hat. I still got to have a Gary Johnson hat I'm wearing right now. And I'm wearing it from now on. From this point moving forward. You know what I'm saying? I'm wearing this one. I'm wearing this hat the rest of the time, man. Because you know what? I am sick of the debate. I'm going for my candidate. I'm not going for anybody else's. Screw you. Screw the rest of it. I don't care. I'm done. Because in all honesty,
Hey, guys, I've got to go engage in capitalism now, but good talking to you as always.
enjoy yourself,
All right,
Wiley.
see you later.
WileyForGovernor.com, folks. WileyForGovernor.com. WileyForGovernor.com.
Which is not a website you can go to. It's
no
not,
longer valid.
Yeah,
No.
so.
All right, well,
But if you were planning on donating to Wiley's campaign, go to 1787network.com, click on the donate button there, and send your donation.
1787network.com. 1787network.com. Here's the other thing with this Gary, because we're on the Gary Johnson thing. Let me talk about CPAC. The fact that woman is on stage and got cheers and applause for the lies and the crap that she was saying is only more proof that CPAC is not a place that is friendly to libertarians.
Oh, listen, they had Gary Johnson on. She's not a part of CPAC. She's not a part of the conservative movement whatsoever. The panel, she was on it. He was on it on the libertarian side. I think that the fact that CPAC had a debate on cannabis shows a lot, and it shows where we're moving on cannabis. That cannabis is so mainstream. The one area that used to, the conservative area would be the one people that would not touch it, and for them to even have the debate, as ridiculous as that woman is, I think is, I think it shows how much cannabis is mainstream and how much it's moving forward and how much we're winning on the issue.
Thank you, Libertarian Party.
Exactly.
Do you want to play this other video now, since we're talking
How
about
long is that
CPAC?
video?
I think it's only a
It's-
couple
yeah,
minutes.
it's like 2 minutes, 16 seconds maybe.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right.
This is Gary Johnson at CPAC getting interviewed by
someone I
somebody.
don't know.
I don't know who it was. It was on Yahoo, though, so whatever.
I think it's a CNN person.
I'm sure if we were on Comcast, we wouldn't be able to see it because I heard they had a fight going on, them and Yahoo.
Oh, wow. This is like not wanting to play.
It took a little bit when I wanted to play it. Let's
Hold on.
look at this thing. Here's the thing. You want to say that they're more open to libertarians, and I'll give you a little bit on that.
No, I said they're more open. The fact that that a conservative
by former Governor
sorry.
Gary Johnson
Go
of
ahead.
Mexico.
It finally
running
started.
Mexico, running for president once again. Is that right?
Well, actually, I hope to.
It was the bronze medalist.
Yeah, it was the bronze medalist.
What would
in
it look like this time around?
2012.
What would it look like
Running
this
as a
time
libertarian?
around? Running as a libertarian?
The notion of being
the notion of being
really very conservative,
really very
being a
conservative
flaming
and,
liberal,
being a flaming liberal when it comes
How does
to
that
civil
fit
liberties.
in around Rand
How does that
Paul?
fit
Rand Paul's
in
a
around
Republican
Rand Paul?
nominee. How
Rand
much
Paul's
of
a
the Republican
Republican
nominee?
vote
How much
does
of
he
the
end up
libertarian vote? Is he a capturing? Is he a libertarian in your mind?
The fact that he's running and that he's garnering all the attention that he's getting. I think that that's terrific. I would hope that would equate at some point to, well, gee, he's a libertarian, but he's a libertarian, but what's the libertarian? And I'm not saying that I'm going to be the libertarian candidate. What does the libertarian candidate for president have to say? The differences would be on the social side. The differences would be marriage equality. The differences would be drug policy.
So let's talk about drug policy. Let's talk about drug policy right outside here. Right outside here. As you know, there were members of your former party, Republicans on Capitol Hill, who are even threatening city officials with arrest as they go forward on this, even in the minor way that they are. Do you think that's a mistake right now?
60-40 issue. I mean, 60% of Americans now support legalizing marijuana. Having a debate over legalizing marijuana is like having a debate over whether the sun's going to come up tomorrow. The sun's coming up tomorrow.
Why do you think the Republican Party has been slow on that issue? You can link it with others as well, but they're not there. I mean, that's where the opposition is. That's where the opposition
is. Let me just define it as stupid. And why shouldn't a Republican embrace the fact that you should be able to make decisions in your own life that as long as those decisions don't adversely affect others, have at it.
All right, former Governor Gary Johnson. All right, former Governor Gary Johnson. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
All right, so that was Gary Johnson calling the GOP's cannabis policy stupid.
That's another thing. I just, and again, maybe Adrian's right, man. Maybe I'm getting bad about this, but I just look at, I just look at it as, I don't know. I look at it as like you shouldn't say words if you're running for president. But I love Gary Johnson, though. I really do. You know what I love about him, though, is that really he is running the I don't give a crap. I'm going to just say what I want to say. You know what I'm saying? What was that face for, Greg?
Issues. Broadcast issues.
All right. Are we still on the air?
We're still on the air.
Oh, okay, good. Okay. All right. Look, let me just say this first off. I'm glad he went to CPAC. I'm happy that he went to CPAC. I'm happy that anybody that believes in liberty and freedom goes to CPAC to try to change the minds of the authoritarian psychopaths that they have to stand around when they go there. And they get cheers because I'm looking at the list of people that are going to this thing and the things that they're talking about. I mean, it's enough to make you kind of sick a little bit. Like, it's enough to make me feel like I'm like a little verklempt here.
Well, I get what you're saying, that, our candidate should be presidential, and, would you want Gary Johnson to win the presidency and then, fall on the floor faking a heart attack with a, foreign dignitary or something? And, while I probably would not want Gary falling on the floor in that situation, I don't think he would. I mean, I think that he was posed with a ridiculous, something that was going on that was absolutely ridiculous, and he responded in kind. And I actually think that, like, you're doing a very candid interview with a candidate, and while they can, say a whole lot of words that mean nothing, Gary is proving over and over again that he's not going to do that. He's going to give you his straight answer. And the fact that he's been a two-term governor, he has executive experience, lets you know that he does know the difference in the situations. But, listen, at the end of the day, the conservative, the Republican response on cannabis, on marijuana, on, the production of hemp is stupid. Has been stupid for many, many, many years. And, for someone to go out there and say, yeah, I used to be in this party. I didn't agree with them then. I don't agree with them now because their policy is stupid. I actually like that he's being that candid and honest.
Yeah, I think I'm coming around on it as well. I think because I watched Gary's a little while back, and he said basically, I'm not going to run under any illusion this time around. I'm going to speak my mind and say what I want to say. And I thought he was kind of doing that the first time anyway. Now I realize that he wasn't. And that now he's going to. I thought, where could you go? You were actually, you did pretty well out there. But now it's totally one of those things where he's going to be, he's really going to be speaking his mind. By the way, shameless plug to go along with this is that he is one of the invited speakers. More than likely will be, not confirmed yet, but pretty much confirmed. Not all the way confirmed yet, that he will be one of the guest speakers at the Libertarian Party of Florida State Convention that will be held June 5th through 7th in Pasco County. Gary Johnson will be there along with Ben Swan.
Who is confirmed.
Oh, it's confirmed?
Ben Swan has been confirmed.
Yeah, Ben's confirmed, by the way.
Yeah.
You want to talk about somebody they should be talking at CPAC, it should be Ben Swan.
Right. But he will be talking in Newport Richie.
Yeah, we got him.
Because he's coming here. Also, Tony Stiles, and we are about to confirm Adam Kokesh today.
Yes. So, a lot going on with that. But let me get back to CPAC for a second, though.
I have lots on CPAC, by the way.
Yeah. Well, do you want to go somewhere else? Where were you going to go on CPAC?
Here's the thing. A bunch of people have already spoken. There's been some pre-speech jabs thrown around. So I could do a half hour on just CPAC, which is why I had it up there for so long.
I think her point is it's good that we're talking about CPAC because she's got plenty of material for this segment.
Oh,
so you can finish what you're talking about related to CPAC.
We only have 8 minutes, though, so I have way more content than we have time for.
We could take it into the second hours,
yeah.
as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I guess we could. Yeah, we could talk to Brandon about it, too, if we wanted to. Here's the thing. I wanted to kind of take a look over here. This is the Friday set of speakers. This is what's going on Friday. So you got Newt Gingrich, Laura Ingraham, The Rube, Rick Perry, Brett Bozell. The exhibit hall opens.
Because that's important.
Then there's a debate, privacy versus security. The moderator, Lou Dobbs, and his teeth. General Mike Hayden's going to be on there, former director of the Central Intelligence Agency, and Judge Andrew Napolitano. That actually is a pretty good back and forth.
I think that's going to be a great debate.
Then it is targeting and activating people. Their vote doesn't matter. Getting out our vote. Matt Robbins with American Majority. Tweet to Win, a case study with Matt Batzel with the American Majority as well. First off, and let me just make sure I make this comment when it comes to organizations like American Majority, by the way. American Majority are Republican front groups. Make no mistake about it. They are Republican front groups. And they are there to make sure that more people go and stay Republican. After that, and this is what almost completely eliminates the fact that CPAC is at all worthy, John Bolton from the American Enterprise Institute is on at 10:20. Inviting that authoritarian psychopath, honestly, is enough for me to just say, you're done.
But here's the thing, and what we were saying before.
I don't care you had Napolitano. Go ahead.
I don't think CPAC is more open to libertarians. What I'm saying is the fact that even CPAC had to do a debate on cannabis shows how much we're winning on the issue.
No, and and look, and that part is definitely true. But I anybody that goes to this thing, though, any libertarian that goes to this thing, I hope that you're under the understanding that you should be there to, reach out to people to try to get them onto your side. But you are not in friendly territory. These people are not. What I don't like is that what they try to do with this one is say we should be standing hand in hand with these people that are going to this thing.
I haven't heard anyone. The LPAC, but not CPAC.
The overall message of this whole thing, in my opinion.
I don't think
our vote. Hey, you know what? Here's the thing.
He's talking about the conservative vote.
Matt Robbins. Yeah. Oh, no, that's fine. Not libertarians, though. You're not trying to get out our vote. All right? And you couldn't even touch our vote, Matt Robbins, you tool.
But I don't think that they're saying that.
Nah, I totally
I think you're confusing LPAC and CPAC. LPAC does that. They get we're just libertarians at heart when they're all really Republicans. I think CPAC is very upfront with the fact that they are conservatives. They are not libertarians.
Yeah. Well, and at the end of the day, look, I would never. I think that the fact that the Libertarian Party had a booth there before is a good thing. The fact that Gary Johnson went there is a good thing. Those are all good things, not bad things. But at least for my opinion, 90% of the people that are there speaking, no, maybe not 90. 75% of the people that are speaking are not our political allies. They are our political enemies. Enemies.
Yeah.
We are against these people. These people are not with us. They do not support liberty and freedom. Don't do it in any way, shape, manner, or form. What they try to do, look, what they're trying to do with privacy versus security debate is to actually, instead of saying we're going to introduce you to Napolitano and try to get things done, they're trying to get the guy from the CIA to be able to beat Napolitano in an interview, and they're so arrogant that they think that they can do it.
Yeah.
So, again, we want to go to these things. That's perfectly fine. But I'm not standing with these people going to this event.
I don't know. I don't see it the same way as you do. I don't think they're trying to. I don't think they're asking us to.
Any libertarian who knows what they believe and knows what it's about is going to see this immediately and go, these are not libertarians.
No, listen, and they would say they're not libertarians. Listen, I've watched the videos from LPAC, and every time you're at LPAC, they're like, well, I'm really a libertarian at heart. They use that word over and over and over again. We need to stand with the libertarians, and we need to all coalesce together. This is not LPAC. This is CPAC. They are conservatives. They are the right of the right wing of the Republican Party. They are the moral, social, engineers of the Republican Party, and they don't they don't hide from that. They are conservatives, and when they say we want to get out our vote, they mean the conservative vote. They're not looking for us.
Yeah, yeah. These people are our competition. Just for the record, I mean, these people are our competition. And I know you guys don't agree with me on this one, but
I think they are just as much our competition as the liberals are.
Absolutely.
Progressives.
No, I ain't going to Netroots either.
I don't know why you say that you don't think we agree with you on this. They are our competition. I will repeat it after you.
I have never heard anything from CPAC where they have at any time wanted to be hand in hand with the libertarians. I think that's where I disagree with you, because you're kind of saying how they're projecting that they want to be kind of hand in hand with us, and I don't think they project that at all.
I think that there are conservatives, there are people who say those kinds of things, but it's not CPAC. These politicians and these speakers at CPAC, it's keyboard commando conservatives that say those kinds of things.
Right.
I think is where you're getting that.
Maybe.
Yeah, these people piss me off.
I hadn't noticed.
I really don't like these people at all. It really annoys me, some of these people, especially when you look like they're going to have Rick Santorum speak. Why would that be? Why would that be possible?
Because he's a conservative.
Yeah. Well, no.
He fits in with their message.
Now, here's the part that pisses me off here, though. You have this guy on, and you have all these other people that I'm talking about, and then you have the nerve to have a panel discussion about how cronyism corrupts the free markets. You give all these crony guys time on your stage, but then try to say that you're not a bunch of crony capitalists by having a debate discussion about how cronyism corrupts the free market.
Well, that's how they get out their vote. They hide from their own records. Because nobody's going to vote for them if they say, hey, yeah, I'm going to give special favors to everyone who pays me.
Yeah. And it's really funny. Then they have one about America, the military superpower. What is the right size for our military? So one of the ways in which you're able to pass on a lot of this cronyism is 2 ones down. Really kind of funny. Again, these people make me sick. So
yeah,
I'm so sick. I'm so sick of them, and it ain't even funny.
I mean, I'm just as sick of them as I would be, progressives and all them. I mean, I don't agree with conservatives. They know that. They don't agree with me. They're very upfront with that. So I don't see where we would even. They're not trying to work with us, and we're not trying to work with them. So let them have their little hooray for us convention, and we have ours, and
By the way, Saturday at 8:30, Mark Levin. All I'm saying.
I thought we're not allowed to say his name on air.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He's the one that should not be ever named.
Oh, okay. The radio host that should not be named is on.
Voldemort.
By the
we
way,
can just call him Voldemort.
I got to tell you, by the way, if I was invited to be on a panel or anything at CPAC, I would turn every one of them down. Every one of them I would turn down. Just for the record. And I'll never be invited, so it won't matter anyway. Hour number 1's in the bag. Hour number 2 is coming up. 1787network.com. 1787network.com. We'll be back.
Hi, this is Gary Johnson, and you're listening to the 1787 Radio Network.
Facts about the red light cameras. Fact, you are guilty until proven innocent. The Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution grants you the presumption of innocence. Fact, red light cameras cause accidents. Accidents are up on an average of 40% at intersection with cameras. Fact, cameras punish technical foul violations. Over 80% of tickets are written when the red light is on, under 1/2 second. Join the fight at www.banthecams.org. www.banthecams.org.
Liberty starts with a like. Facebook.com/Liberty Underground.
If you received a ticket in Florida, contact Oropesa Law Offices, 800-774-9883 or tacklemyticket.com. Attorney Oropesa understands the stress associated with being charged with a traffic ticket. In many non-criminal ticket cases, there may be no court appearance, no points, and no traffic school. Attorney Oropesa handles criminal violations, DUI, and license suspension matters. Don't face these serious legal matters alone. Initial consultation is free. Call now and you will be advised about any potential defense, constitutional rights violations, the possibility of having your driving privileges restored, or preventing a suspension from going into effect. If you've been classified as a habitual traffic offender, have a driver's license suspension matter, or a pending DUI case, call Oropesa Law Offices now so you can be advised about your particular case. Call 1-800-774-9883 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or visit tacklemyticket.com. Main office in Pinellas County and serving all of the Tampa Bay area. Find out more at tacklemyticket.com. Mention Liberty Underground and get 25% off.
You know Going Postal offers shipping with UPS, FedEx, and DHL International, and they're a full-service post office. And Going Postal is not just your one-stop shop for shipping. They offer copying, laminating, faxing, packaging, and they even have a notary public service. Visit our friends at Going Postal at the following convenient locations: Palm Harbor at the corner of Tampa Road and County Road 1 in the Sweet Bay Plaza, St. Pete on 66th Street just south of Tyrone Boulevard near Publix, and be sure to visit their newest location at 35595 US 19 North at Alderman Road next to Publix in Palm Harbor.
When the unthinkable happens, it doesn't matter if you save money in 15 minutes. It doesn't matter if your neighbor has the same insurance you do. In this moment, what matters is the quality of your independent agent and the company that stands behind them. Auto Owners Insurance has been recognized as highest in customer satisfaction with the auto insurance claims experience 5 years in a row by J.D. Power and Associates. For award information, go to jdpower.com. Call Row Insurance in Newport Richey today at 727-376-0030.
Welcome back to Liberty Underground on the 1787 Radio Network. If you'd like to call the program, the number 1-800-525-4032. Refresh Telecom, 1-800-525-4032.
But don't call because we're going to have Brandon come on in a minute and the phone line will be...
Yeah.
We won't be able to put you on the air.
Occupado.
That's not even a real word, man. That's not even a real word, Greg.
Don't tell me what to do.
So we were talking about CPAC.
Yeah.
And Governor Gary Johnson was there to do a debate on cannabis, but he was not the only one talking about cannabis. Rand Paul blasted Governor Jeb Bush on Wednesday for his hypocrisy on drug policy.
Boy, that's a teapot calling the kettle black right there.
That's exactly what I thought when I saw it.
That is the teapot calling the kettle black, boy.
he did make a couple of points, but basically what he was saying is that, Jeb Bush was in this very wealthy elite prep school, and while he was there, he used marijuana all the time, didn't get caught, didn't have to go to prison, but then will not legalize it for anyone else. And basically that these laws are, disproportionately targeting poor people and minorities, and that those people are going to jail while someone like Jeb Bush can smoke marijuana all through school and not have any negative consequences.
Look, don't get me wrong. I think that what Rand's talking about there is very accurate. Didn't necessarily ever hear him coming out in favor of legalization.
No, and he's not in favor of legalization, which is why he is also a hypocrite.
While you're making that argument there, guy, the inherited namesake or whatever. But on the line right now is Brandon Jones with the Global. Brandon, how are you doing, sir?
Oh, what a beautiful day. Out enjoying time with my family today, taking a break from the doldrums of the day-to-day operations. So thanks for having me on your show.
No, we appreciate you. We appreciate you being on, Brandon. How official. First off, I do want to get back to something we were talking about the first hour with net neutrality. I wanted to find out what your take was on what has happened with net neutrality.
The biggest thing is just the scary language that we don't even all know. But of course, there's been certain things that have already leaked out, and I love the response from the administration is, well, it may say that, but we're not going to do that. So what this means is, at some point, there'll be ultra control of the internet. They'll start deciding of certain filters as though they're not already filters. There are already filters in place done by the companies themselves based on the money that you're paying them. So it's just going to add another layer of control, filter, censorship, that kind of thing that's already happening. It's just going to get worse.
It's just going to get worse. Okay. You know what, Brandon?
We've talked about that a little bit on the show, right? We've talked a little bit about the filters and stuff that are already in place.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we've talked about things like that before. I guess my question to you, though, Brandon, what is tickling your fancy right now? Like, what are the stories that were big for you this week?
Well, the funny part is usually when there's a big headline, it's look somewhere else. This week, there were so many of these moments, I'm not sure which was supposed to be the headline and which was supposed to be the look somewhere else. Whether we're talking about the executive order to ban AR-15 ammunition, whether we're talking about some of the battle over the DHS stuff, whether, there's so many things happening overseas. I mean, there are so many moving parts. So I guess I'll have to hand the keys back to you and let you drive.
Well, I think the first thing is that the executive order about banning the AR-15 ammunition. Can you go into a little bit more detail there?
Well, that's pretty much how it is. I mean, it's just, we've moved forward, and, he's deciding that he has that ability as an executive, and he's moved forward on banning a certain type of ammunition for the AR-15, one of the most popular sportsman weapons in the United States. And I don't know that we even have heard from the GOP or anyone really of any serious opposition. We have lip service from a couple of folks, but you've waited so long to push back against any executive orders, not from just this administration, any administration, but especially from this administration. So I don't sadly foresee them really doing anything about it.
You don't think that you don't think that you're going to have a lot of opposition with the Republicans up there, and obviously you're not having too much because you haven't really heard. You're right. We haven't really heard too much about this.
Yeah, I had the story up once the actual vote went through, and even driving home and in the evening time, they were still all talking about DHS stuff. They're talking about Israel stuff. It hadn't actually made any waves yet. So I admit I'm a little unplugged this morning. So maybe it is making some of the rounds and some of the circles, but I don't understand. And like I said, there's no track record yet from the GOP that they're going to push back.
Yeah. Now here's the thing. What's funny is that normally what you see in something like this is you would see a lot of Republicans making a lot of noise, but you didn't really see that this go around with a Second Amendment issue like this. And I am a little curious as to why you're not seeing that.
I wish I had answers on that. Maybe it's too early for me to say. I really haven't dug deeper on why there hasn't been more on this. It really, and to me, it also sort of, I know this stuff has been in the works for a while. I wonder, were they blindsided by this? Like they felt like it had just been tabled and it really hadn't been on their radar screen, and they were so distracted with other stuff. But there were a couple of Republicans that spoke out. But again, speaking out doesn't get anything done. And that's great that you speak out, and it may help your campaign, but reality is it's still moved forward, and I've yet to see from the legislative branch that they're going to do anything to undo the executive orders that are getting done. They're rolling over right now.
Yeah. Oh, no, they totally rolled over on that, by the way. What were you going to say, Danielle?
I think part of it is almost like a standoff. Like they don't really think he's going to do it because honestly, the public outcry, if it when it becomes public, because eventually it will, would be significant. I think that there would be large amounts of lawsuits that would put off the the actual ban for quite a while. So I think it's almost hedging their bets at this point.
You think so?
Yeah.
Well, it happens, I guess. I guess it happens. I don't
To me,
know.
what I hear from that is just a lack of leadership.
Yeah, no, I think that you're right on that.
It just goes to show. It just goes to show that they have no, none at all.
Yeah, I mean,
we've known that on many other issues.
Well, the thing is,
they've proven that over and over again.
Anyway, it wasn't. I didn't preface it as breaking news. I'm just like, that's all I heard again. It's just more confirmation of what I heard.
Just more.
Let's not to move to the movie thing, but
You're moving to the
I'm
movie
going to move to the movie thing real quick. At the Oscars that just happened, one thing that was of some interest is that the Edward Snowden documentary, Citizen 4, did win an Oscar for Best Documentary, though.
Yeah, that was exactly what it won for, Best Documentary.
So that I thought was a pretty good thing. Brandon, what do you think about that one winning for Best Documentary?
Well, and well deserved. There was a whole lot that went into that documentary, and it is a very popular documentary overseas. Has a very strong following. I'm a little surprised at how Hollywood is embracing it, since it makes them very hypocritical on other issues. And they're moving forward with another film. They're actually, Oliver Stone is going to direct the film. It's going to have Joseph Gordon-Levitt in it, Timothy Olyphant. It's moving forward as well. So Snowden will not go into the shadows quite yet. His legacy and what he's accomplished is still coming out. And of course, there's more information even this last week about some of the new documents that came out through Greenwald's group was showing how the NSA and other groups hacked into the cell phone chip manufacturers. So the ones that are manufacturing your little microchip and your SIM cards and these kinds of things, they hacked in to make sure they had all of the encryption keys so that they could track you, even if your cell phone companies or the providers locked in place. They could basically hack in as though they were you to track you if they needed to.
Damn. Boy, it really is just kind of crappy, though. That whole thing just... Every time they come out with something new, it's just it's almost worse than... what else do they have that they're waiting to put out? I know it takes a long time to go through all the data that they had to go through, but man, what else is... What other smoking guns are going to be out there that Snowden's revelations are going to reveal, I guess?
Well, yeah.
But no one ever cares or says anything, right? I mean, you see this stuff in movies like Born Identity and these different movies, and they do things so effortlessly. And there's sort of a desensitization that they don't do this in real life, when in fact they're already beyond all of that. This is that's old school stuff. They're way beyond that now. It doesn't even, an NSA agent on his laptop now track down where you are, hack into your phone, download all your emails, your files, your metadata, anything and everything he wants, without ever doing anything, without calling it in. It's just the technology is that far.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Danielle?
I forgot.
Oh. Now,
I'm sorry, Danielle.
No, it's fine. Once I look away, don't worry about coming back to me.
All right. Now, the other thing that happened this week, too, was that the president has vetoed the Keystone XL pipeline.
Well, that's a shocker.
Which is a shocker. However, was this the right move or was this the wrong move? Let me explain what I mean by this. In doing some additional research into the Keystone XL pipeline, it looked to me that there was also an eminent domain portion to this, that these guys were going to be by force taking land, and that they were going to be using this land in order to build the pipeline. So, should we really have been in favor of something like this? If they're, again, I'm okay with, look, you can put a pipeline anywhere you want to put a pipeline at the end of the day. But if you got to take somebody's property to do it, that might seem to be a problem. I'm just curious, Brandon, on your thing. I know that I'm sure you know about this. What's your take on whether it should have been vetoed, whether it shouldn't have been vetoed, and kind of where you're at here?
Well, and that is a great topic of discussion because it sort of kind of fell off the radar screen. Early on, I think some of that stuff was brought to light, and then it kind of fell to the wayside. And the bill and all the information sort of pushed along as though TransCanada and other companies were going to be paying for all this. So you didn't get the sense of a federal land grab was behind it. And that definitely has not been part of the reporting over the last 2 years, ever since the initial State Department draft came out and basically talked about how this was the best bet. This was ecologically the best bet. It was financially the best bet, all of that. So it is a great topic from that standpoint. If we look into it and we found out that was really going to be the case and these people were really going to kind of get the deal, so to speak, by not wanting to hand over the land, but they're being forced to, I'm not going to sign on board for that, no matter how much I think it's the right thing to do from a oil standpoint and from a job standpoint.
Yeah. Now, and also, let me just say this. I don't think the president did it because all of a sudden he cared about people's property, by the way. I mean, it's definitely, he vetoed it for the wrong reasons, but are we that, if that's the other part of the story, that him vetoing it, is that really like the worst thing in the world to be able to do is to veto this? The other thing is this, like if the GOP was hedging all of their bets on energy independence and moving energy forward and jobs, if they were betting all of it on a pipeline, then they're about as useless as I think they are. Because it seems like this was like, well, we have to get this passed, and this is the biggest thing in the world to get passed, and it has to go down, even though they knew that the president was going to probably veto it anyway. It just sucks that we have up in Washington, D.C., because, both of them are suckola. I guess it just depends on your flavor, suckola that you're looking for, which I'm now going to be, I'm going to trademark that, just for the record, suckola. I'm just trademarking that right off the bat, just so you guys know. But it is part of the.
It's just good to know you're a suckola guy, not a suckepsy guy.
Oh, that was good, Brandon. Sometimes, brother, you are. Brandon, you are definitely one of the wittiest guys that I do know. Though you are able to come up with something very, very quickly, and you do it very well, sir. So kudos to you for that.
All right, I will name that and claim that.
Now, are you up to date? Did you? I guess we'll ask about Gary as well, though. Did you see what Gary Johnson did at CPAC?
No, I did see the URLs and the headlines, but I didn't get a chance to actually watch everything.
Okay, well, just quickly, I'll give you a rundown real quick, just so I can ask your opinion. But what happened was he's at CPAC. He's at a drug policy debate, guided discussion, or they got a couple people on stage, and they're all going back and forth with the drug thing. And this woman on stage basically says that you have such a greater chance of having a heart attack an hour after smoking marijuana. And so Gary Johnson fakes a heart attack and falls right on the stage. Like, he just falls down. Fakes the heart attack. He was in a chair, fakes a heart attack, falls down, and then gets back up in his chair. What's your thought on that?
Just fantastic.
I mean, it was
it's just so great because these people they're just wound so tight and they take themselves so seriously, and it's just laughable because they're so incompetent at what they do. If this was if the public servants that we have were sort of evaluated remotely in the same way the private sector is, there's not a single one of them that could survive the job more than about 15 days.
Right, you're absolutely right about this. It is funny that. Look, I like that Gary did that. I do think it's kind of funny at the end of the day that he did that. A little bit on two sides of this one, but I'm really leaning much more towards the, maybe that's what you should do if you're going to run for this thing that's a joke anyway. Maybe you should do that.
Was he saying he smoked weed an hour ago?
Oh, I think that was the implication.
I think that was the implication.
Well, that's the insinuation, right? By behaving the way he did, that's the insinuation.
You're gonna have a heart attack an hour after you smoke. He's like, oh.
Oh God, they got me. No, if he like that, where he was like walking and saying, they got me, and then fell down, that would have been even better.
That might have been taking it too far.
It's like he's Chevy Chase on an SNL skit. You know what I mean?
Listen, I said it, I'll say it again. When you're posed with that much ridiculousness, he responded in kind.
Yeah.
When they're not offering serious arguments, we are not under any obligation to take them seriously.
No, I think you're right there. I really think you're right on this one. Anything else, Brandon, that you really wanted to make sure that we discussed here on the show today?
There really is just a ton. I really want to go back around, if we could, just a little bit to the florist. The florist has gotten a little bit of headlines now. This is the florist that refused to do a gay wedding. She has now lost to the Washington State Attorney General, and they're going after her. And I guess the language in their law allows them to actually even go after her personal property and her personal belongings. So this is actually possibly going to bankrupt her. So, it's such a polarizing topic in 2015 about discrimination and the freedom to run your business as you say you want to run it, freedom of conscience, that kind of thing. And I think it's just a fascinating story that has at least come to light a little bit, but if you haven't caught it, just check the site out. It's all there. Tons of stuff on there. I just put up a new interview with a guy that's in the new movie Focus that opens today, and tons of great content with a lot of great writers. I'm just very blessed to have the site. It's called theglobaldispatch.com.
Yes, it is. That is Brandon Jones, theglobaldispatch.com. Yeah, Brandon, it is always a pleasure to have you on, sir. I always wanted to make sure that I say that, and sometimes we don't. I always feel like we do say it a lot, but I just really you do add content, you do add, a level of professionalism to the show that we desperately need. So
get a room.
I'm not even laughing because I don't agree, because I completely. The fact that as soon as Brandon hangs up every single week, you say the exact same thing is just funny.
Well, he's still on, though. I said it this week with him on the air. Normally, I say it, he's not on the air. I wanted to make sure I said it this time
while he was
the air.
on.
Yes, exactly. All right, Brandon, thanks, brother.
I think it was about 2 or 3 weeks. It was about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I think you guys did continue to have that kind of conversation because someone told me I had to go back and hear the replay, and you guys did say a lot of very kind things and flattering things, and I appreciate that very, very much.
We do it every week, so your friend needs to listen more.
All right, Brandon. We'll see you next week, man.
All right, you guys, talk hard.
Talk hard. Always nice, Brandon. On
he always raises the quality of the program.
Always ups the game here. Always up in the game. Always up in the game. Sorry. One other CPAC thing I just wanted to make. I wanted to say this as well.
One other?
Sorry,
because it never gets old complaining about conservatives.
They are planning. That there is a plan or a movement afoot to walk on Jeb Bush when he's talking.
Fake.
I think that stories are put out like this in order to try to make it sound like all these people wouldn't vote for Jeb Bush.
Right, but I think it's fake. I don't think anyone's gonna walk out.
I think there might be like a half a dozen people who do it. And it'll go completely unnoticed, except for their internet posts beforehand that they're saying they're going to do
Which
it.
you will not see because Comcast is going to delete them.
Because net neutrality hasn't gone into effect yet.
Sorry. There are a couple other things from CPAC, though, that I did want to get into.
Go ahead.
Because Governor Scott Walker from Wisconsin put his foot in his mouth at CPAC this week because when he was asked how he would, because obviously they're looking at him being a contender for the presidency in 2016. And so he was asked how he would handle ISIS if elected president. And his response was, "For years I've been concerned about that threat, not just abroad, but here on American soil. But if I can take on 100,000 protesters, I can do the same across the world." So basically he said that the teachers union in Wisconsin is the same as ISIS.
He compared the Wisconsin Teachers Union to Middle Eastern Islamic fundamentalist terrorists.
What?
You may not like the teachers or the teachers union, but that is quite a stretch.
What the hell's wrong with this guy?
I don't think we have the kind of time we need to discuss that.
I mean, seriously, though.
Now they do say, and this is the worst part of it, Scott Walker stole the show at CPAC. Now, if that's what you need to steal the show at the Conservative Political Action Conference, that's a sad, sad state.
It's just like Madonna stealing the show at that awards show the other. The thing I know about that award show is that Madonna fell.
Yeah,
and that's basically what this is. Scott Walker stole the show because he fell.
Now, do you think Madonna had Life Alert?
I think she's definitely old enough where her children may be considering that for her.
Yeah, if she didn't then, she probably does now.
Yeah, I mean, she should get that. Honestly, we should all. I will put together a FundMe account to get Madonna Life Alert.
No, I think she's got enough money to afford it herself.
Money to do it? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, though. Gosh, man, I'm telling you, man, this is. I mean, look, Scott Walker, seriously, guy. Why do these people continually do this stuff? And why are they like? Here's the thing: what's more embarrassing, faking a heart attack and falling on the floor, or comparing ISIS to
the teachers' union
to ISIS?
That's really one of the differences between the liberals and the conservatives. The liberals put their foot in their mouth, but the conservatives put their foot in their mouth and swallow.
Like liberals say things like, "I'm concerned that Guam might might tip over if everyone gets to one side."
Which is okay. I can't believe that person was a sitting congressman that said that. Hold on, make sure we go into the story. Retell the story in case people don't know this part of the story.
God, and I always forget the representative's name.
I'm looking it up.
Okay, thank you. Because there was a congressman that actually went onto the House floor to explain.
Well, it was in a committee. He was interviewing somebody in a committee.
Yeah, he was interviewing someone in committee.
Congressman Hank Johnson.
There it is.
Hank Johnson.
Hank Johnson. Well, Congressman Hank Johnson had to tell everyone that he was concerned that if too many people were to go to one side of Guam, that if we were to put too many people, too much equipment, too many things on one half of Guam, that it could tip over. You know, like a boat. Like if you put too much weight on a boat on one side, that Guam may do the same thing. The island of Guam.
And was dead serious when he did it. I mean, dead serious.
He
was concerned.
Legitimately
and the
concerned.
guy he was interviewing, I don't know what, like, if you look at his face, the gentleman that he was, because there's somebody testifying and he was being asked questions. And so this Hank Johnson representative, I mean, it's so embarrassing representatives that you call Hank Johnson a representative. But the face that guy had was just, are you really asking that question?
Like you don't know how to respond?
Are you serious? You know, because like what a lack of understanding of how an island is even like. Can we send this guy back to like remedial geography class or something like that? I mean,
geology.
Do you want to know what the worst part about that story is?
Yeah.
Later that year, he won re-election.
Yeah. Yeah, that is scary. By the way. Like that is scary, by the way. And the other part that really sucks in society nowadays is if you call him out for that, you're called a racist.
Right, because thinking Guam will tip over if you put too much equipment and people on one side is not like.
Yeah, that ain't a black or white thing, guys.
This has nothing to do with you being black. It has to do with you being dumb.
Stupid.
Being dumb as a box of rocks.
Well, what was it?
You know what? Oh, go ahead.
It was Sheila Jackson Lee that had said that. How you would get rid of high capacity magazines is that eventually someone would just shoot all the bullets out and there they go, they'd just be gone.
You wouldn't make any new ones.
Because apparently everyone forgot how to reload.
Oops.
What a failure of our education system. Complete failure of our education
Yet
system.
another indictment on why I homeschool.
Yeah. That's two very strong indictments right there either. You know, and you're not racist for bringing these things up, by the way. Just for the record, you're not racist for bringing these things up because, look, stupid is stupid. Stupid's colorblind.
Yeah. We were just talking about stupid white people a few minutes ago.
Exactly. We're talking about CPAC. That was a bunch of stupid white people.
I'm just saying. I just really don't like these people.
Yeah, it's, but... So you also had Jeb Bush, who is going to be going to CPAC. He is going to be speaking there, which is he normally does not speak at CPAC. A lot of the speakers that you're seeing there are, they speak every single year. I mean, you do kind of get this, well, okay, these are the speakers that always go. But Jeb Bush is on this year, which is a little different than usual. But he was interviewed kind of as this precursor to CPAC. Everyone's being interviewed. And he was asked if, that he would be deterred from going into war, since his family is kind of has this, his family has has almost been, very vilified for all of their warlike functions while in office. And he doubled down and said that, as the president, I would have a duty to protect the citizens of the United States, and I would not be deterred in that at all due to my family's legacy. So he is all war all the time.
He wants to uphold his family's legacy
Right.
and continue putting boots on the ground wherever he can.
Well, he's looking for future generations over there to be able to make money.
Yeah.
Keeping the.
Their grandfather did make their money selling weapons to the Nazis. So, hey.
I know that's crazy to say something like that.
I must be racist.
That's racial right there, and you shouldn't say it because it's totally racial. Yeah, totally racial. Know the truth about the people that you vote on, for Pete's sake. Know the truth about families too. Again, these guys did make money on that, whether you want to admit that or not. It happened. So, all right, website 1787network.com. We'll take a break. We'll be back. More Liberty Underground on the way.
Hi, this is Gary Johnson, and you're listening to the 1787 Radio Network.
Facts about the red light cameras. Fact, you are guilty until proven innocent. The Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution grants you the presumption of innocence. Fact, red light cameras cause accidents. Accidents are up on an average of 40% at intersection with camera. Fact, cameras punish technical foul violations. Over 80% of tickets are written when the red light is on, under 1/2 second. Join the fight at www.banthecams.org. www.banthecams.org.
Liberty starts with a like. Facebook.com/Liberty Underground.
If you received a ticket in Florida, contact Oropesa Law Offices, 800-774-9883 or tacklemyticket.com. Attorney Oropesa understands the stress associated with being charged with a traffic ticket. In many non-criminal ticket cases, there may be no court appearance, no points, and no traffic school. Attorney Oropesa handles criminal violations, DUI, and license suspension matters. Don't face these serious legal matters alone. Initial consultation is free. Call now and you will be advised about any potential defense, constitutional rights violations, the possibility of having your driving privileges restored, or preventing a suspension from going into effect. If you've been classified as a habitual traffic offender, have a driver's license suspension matter, or a pending DUI case, call Oropesa Law Offices now so you can be advised about your particular case. Call 1-800-774-9883 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or visit tacklemyticket.com. Main office in Pinellas County and serving all of the Tampa Bay area. Find out more at tacklemyticket.com. Mention Liberty Underground and get 25% off.
Going Postal offers shipping with UPS, FedEx, and DHL International, and they're a full-service post office. And Going Postal is not just your one-stop shop for shipping. They offer copying, laminating, faxing, packaging, and they even have a notary public service. Visit our friends at Going Postal at the following convenient locations: Harbor at the corner of Tampa Road and County Road 1 in the Sweet Bay Plaza, St. Pete on 66th Street, just south of Tyrone Boulevard near Publix, and be sure to visit their newest location at 35595 US 19 North at Alderman Road next to Publix in Palm Harbor.
When the unthinkable happens, it doesn't matter if you save money in 15 minutes. It doesn't matter if your neighbor has the same insurance you do. In this moment, what matters is the quality of your independent agent and the company that stands behind them. Auto Owners has been recognized as highest in customer satisfaction with the auto insurance claims experience 5 years in a row by J.D. Power and Associates. For award information, go to jdpower.com. Call Row Insurance in Newport Richey today at 727-376-0030.
Welcome back to Liberty Underground 1787 Radio Network. If you'd like to call the program, the number is 1-800-525-4032. Refresh Telecom. 1-800-525-4032. Danielle has some new information regarding the state of Florida that I think that if you do live in the state of Florida, that you should be made well aware of.
So police are tracking are tracking cell phones, and they are doing their best to make sure you don't know.
Yeah, this is a really nasty story, by the way.
I actually did not pull this story up.
Is this the one I sent you?
Did.
Oh yeah.
So he can actually speak better to this than I can.
No, go ahead.
But these are the stingrays, and they basically track movements of people using their cell phones. They have been doing this without a court order, without a warrant. They can see through the walls of buildings, and so when there has been quite a large amount of media coverage this week only on these stingrays, but we've actually known about them. They've been in practice since like the early 2000, maybe 2005, 2006, something like that. So this has been being used for quite a long time, and we're just now hearing that the stingrays are absolutely being used by police departments all across Florida. They're being regularly used without a warrant, and they can track you even inside a building through your cell phone.
Yeah, this is not new. This is something we've talked about before. It's just that the mainstream media and other media outlets are starting to talk about it now.
Well, here's the thing. What made it worse is that the local guys were getting this like from the feds, but they were getting it from one company, but then were signing non-disclosure agreements, and they were being told how they don't have to, or they were being shown how to hide this from the public, from the general public. Like that. Look, there's so many laws out there. There ain't a law against that.
Well, I mean, technically, there is and there isn't. When you go in front of a judge, and this is why I say anytime that you are charged with something, fight it in court. Don't plea out and ask for a jury. And the reason why is because as soon as you have a right when you start going through the trial process to get a hold of all of the evidence against you and to also get how they obtain the evidence. And any evidence gained through a stingray is not admissible in court. So once you start pushing the, hey, how did you get this? Would have to disclose that it was through a stingray, all of a sudden the charges are dropped, or they're like, hey, can we give you a lesser charge, and miraculously everybody's willing to make a deal. And a lot of this is inadmissible in court, and they don't want to admit that. But that's what happens is that yes, it is not legal, but the repercussions is that the evidence collected against you can't be used against you. It doesn't stop them from doing it.
And typically what they'll do is they'll use this information to start the investigation, to get their foot in the door, essentially, and start gathering what they need to find the evidence that is admissible in court.
Right.
What else are they using? First off, what else are they using this stuff for? And the second, like, what other applications? Like, what if a police officer wants to track the whereabouts of his wife?
Oh, yeah.
And
is he not using it for that?
And there have been cases all over the country, but also in Florida, where there are law enforcement officers that have been tracking a spouse that they thought was cheating, and they overstepped their authority as a law enforcement officer. Use that technology, and not only this technology, but many other pieces of technology to spy on their own family and spouses. Absolutely, and it has been done.
And that's the same thing that when the Snowden revelations were coming out, that's one of the things that Snowden said as well. This is something that was being used for these purposes. Here's what I don't understand. I don't understand how the law enforcement community can't start to figure out that if there's a lack of trust of law enforcement right now, that lack of trust has been enhanced not by the actions of somebody reporting about what's going on with law enforcement, but because they were doing it. It's their fault that there's a lack of trust with law enforcement, considering you guys are literally getting equipment you can use to track everyone and then learning how to lie to us that you even have the technology to be able to do this. Like, there's something very wrong there. I don't want to not trust law enforcement, but they've given me, not only have they given me no reason to trust them, they've given me every reason in the world to not trust them. Any of them. All of them. Because these actions like this and like all the other things that we've found out are accepted practices. Mm-hmm. But if you as an individual come with a video camera in a public place to film a building that police are in, they will harass you and arrest you if possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think that this is definitely like a few years back and this year there's going to be some changes that are proposed to the Freedom from Unwarranted Surveillance Act, which, covered drones, because drones was a new technology that, kind of fell in this, not loophole in the law, but, the law needs to change when it comes to protecting our rights. The law does need to change with technology, because when new technology comes out, we as to be protected from them abusing us with it. So, drones were something that was not kind of put into the statutes at the time. And we went in there, we had to go in there and propose legislation that would, require a warrant to collect evidence. And that's something where now that we know the stingrays do exist, they are being used, that's something where legislatively in the next coming years, I think that we need to do that, but not do it in a case of, well, you can't use the evidence, but let a defendant or a victim of this, this device that is stealing your Fourth Amendment rights, let a victim be able to go for punitive damages, and then you'll see, things like this, disappear without a warrant.
Well, speaking of police brutality and misuse of force, have you heard about the Chicago Guantanamo?
I did hear about that.
Very little. Go ahead, though. Give me the rest of the breakdown on this.
Okay. Well, apparently there's a location. I guess it's Homan Square in Chicago, which is being labeled a black site in which Guantanamo-esque interrogation techniques are used to question suspected criminals. People are taken there without charges and being held for hours, sometimes days, and having brutal interrogation techniques forced upon them, and then ultimately being released without charges.
Like, who are they putting in there, though?
I
mean, is it not that it matters, but I mean, was it terrorist suspects? Was it like
no? No, this is like normal people.
This is like drug enforcement and stuff.
Yeah, this is like what their vice and drug units. I mean, this is what they're doing. This is for local Chicago crime. This isn't even about terror suspects. They're using the Guantanamo style efforts for local enforcement
in Chicago.
In Chicago,
home of the Bears.
The Bears.
Home of the Bears.
And the Cubs.
And the terrorists. and the Kings.
And the Obamas.
And the Obamas. Unbelievable. I don't know how many times libertarians need to warn you about this stuff. And, this whole tinfoil hat business in order to try to make the claim that somehow you want to discredit what we're saying doesn't change the fact that it's happening and that we were right. Like Greg had opined earlier today. These people are doing these things whether you want them to be doing them or not. And you can stick your head in the sand and pretend like it's not happening, but it's happening big time, all the time. Mm-hmm. And guys like John Bolton love it. And guys like Marco Rubio love it. And guys like Jeb Bush love it. They love these things. And the reason that they love these things is because they want to be able to take any person possible and put them into a cage for whatever reason that they feel that they need. And they will hide it under the guise of national security, whatever they want to call it at the time. It doesn't change the fact that they're doing these things. And as long as you keep electing these authoritarian psychopaths, You are basically saying that it's quite all right that they continue to do these things. And for Obama and the Democrats to say that they don't like doing it, let me just tell you that the first black site we found out domestically is in Chicago, a-holes.
Yeah, and it is, and it's a scary situation. Have the, right now our own governor is under a huge kind of debacle going on in our own prison system that, normally you'd see people, calling for his resignation over what's going on. And it seems like no matter how many scandals or how many, failures in the system there is, he just kind of, like, we expect so little of him that it's like, well, yeah, that's just Governor Scott. And this is the thing is, people are being, there was a man in the Dade County Correctional Facility that was scalded to death. He literally died from being punished by they put him in the shower with scalding water and didn't let him out to the point of his own death. He died.
Died by water?
Yeah, not even the only one. And there was some very petty drug charges that ended up being gassed to death. When when they were being punished for basically asking why they were in jail and things like that. So these things have been rampant in the last few years in our correctional facilities, and Governor Scott has gone through, I think now 3 I think administrators of the Department of Corrections now. They're every single one of them, they're basically letting one person take the for his own inadequacies in this area, and then they just tell the next one that they have to take the heat. And Mike Cruz basically was told by the chief of staff for Rick Scott, well, you're just gonna have to take the heat on this one and resign.
Look, I'm normally not a fan of zero tolerance policies. However, when it comes to the jails and when it comes to the prisoners, and not the prisoners, but when it comes to the guards that are there and their leadership, I really do think that there should be a zero tolerance policy.
There should be.
If you get somebody in there killed and it was because of scalding hot water, then the person that did it, anybody involved in it, should be fired and put up for criminal charges of murder. The warden of the jail should be fired, and depending on what he knew and when he knew it, should be brought up on criminal charges. And then everybody up the chain should all be fired. Just no pensions, no nothing. You're fired. You're done. Because they need to understand that if someone's and they're in the jail right now, that making sure that they don't die because you put scalding hot water on them or because you're abusing them, if you do that, that should not be tolerated so badly that so many people get fired that they couldn't do it. They would be so afraid of doing it because of that. It's just so people get mad because we equate these things to Nazis and stuff like that. But how can you say that it's not justified? You hear stories like this, the Nazi reference is justified.
Well, yeah, listen, there's been numerous suspicious deaths that went unreported in the Department of Corrections. Now, how do you not report a death?
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because we often talk about the culture of corruption in Tallahassee. Mm-hmm. But what we now have is this culture of bailing on accountability. And you have to admire Rick Scott for how good he is at bailing on accountability.
Well, he's from the front on this.
And that's the thing. It creates that culture in the leadership, and that definitely trickles down. When our governor is not being held accountable, when he bails on accountability and does everything he can to dodge being held accountable.
And is still reelected.
Well, everybody underneath him is going to do the same thing. And it becomes the norm. And that's what we're seeing.
Well, but it's getting to the point where he never answers a question. He has not answered any of the questions on what's going on in our correctional facilities, not once. He never has addressed the issue publicly at all. He just keeps going through different, we'll just put someone new at the top, and then that person is just as inept as the first one. But he doesn't come out publicly. And, and I think we're getting into a culture where we are seeing where it's like, well, it's just that was just a criminal anyways. And I think that's really sad that we're not, that as a society, I mean, I'm not talking about the people in this room, but as a society, we're not looking at someone in a correctional facility that is more often than not a nonviolent offender that is going through this, and are literally in jeopardy inside a correctional facility from the own officers. And I get the whole, well, that was just a criminal, but they're still a human being. And, and I think some of the not seeing the outrage on this issue is that because we become a society of, well, they were a criminal, they deserve to be punished, and, they just got a little extra, so who cares? Because we are seeing that more often than not in the media, but just in general when we talk to people.
Yeah. Yeah. It's what I don't understand is how we're even remotely considered the crazy people at this point.
I know.
It amazes me that the arguments that people will make, like, we didn't talk about this too much before. We didn't talk about this week, and we had Adrian on. We should ask him about it. But Adrian's going to court on Monday.
Right.
And the court proceedings that Adrian is going on is to fight Real ID. If you know anything about the story, if you care to learn anything about the story, you would realize that Adrian is not having an argument over whether or not you should have a driver's license.
Right.
It's not his argument. It's not the story that he's running with. It's not his challenge. His challenge is not the constitutionality of driver's licenses. It's that the information that he's having to turn in is violating the Fifth Amendment or the Fourth Amendment.
His Fourth Amendment rights.
Yeah. So that. And the Naples Daily News wrote an article about Adrian, which was actually a pretty decent article. Like, it wasn't a bad article. It was a pretty decent article. But if you look at some of the responses that people have, which maybe these people are paid, and if they are, they're getting paid way more money than they should be being paid because they're not even that smart. The arguments that they're making, which first off, I could debate them even if we were going on this, but they're not even having to try to make the actual argument against Adrian. They're making an argument off of a straw man that Adrian's not actually saying. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, we have to have licenses or there'll be and everybody will die because somehow a piece of paper is saving everyone's life. Somehow the fact that you have to get a driver's license is saving your life. But if you didn't have one, then there'd just be chaos on the streets and there'd be anarchy and all kinds of bedlam and everybody would die. That's so far removed from the truth, it's not even funny. And the fact that these people are willing to have these discussions like this only go to show you that they're not even that interested in actually having a debate of the issue, probably because they know they're going to lose the debate of the issue, or it's because they're too stupid to actually understand the argument that Adrian was making. I don't know which one it is.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was the one thing that we saw in the last trial is that the prosecution kept saying, well, the Supreme Court has ruled that having a driver's license is constitutional, we can require it. Well, no one was arguing that. And they just kept going back to that. It was like, yeah, but nobody is arguing that fact. And it's like, it was kind of like we were like when you're listening to Adrian, you're listening to the prosecution, they were arguing two completely different cases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at no point did the prosecution ever realize that they were not arguing the same thing that he was.
Yeah. His entire point is not that we should not have driver's licenses. It's that you are violating constitutionally protected rights to make us get the driver's license.
Right. Because of the new information that they were requiring that you get.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, they changed what the requirements were. It was always the same, and all of a sudden Adrian had a problem with it now. It's that they changed everything. Now he has a problem with it.
Right. So, once you implemented the unconstitutional provisions to get the driver's license, that's where there's an issue. Is that there's not an issue of whether we, can be forced to have a driver's license or not. The Supreme Court's ruled on it you can argue it all day, but at the end of the day, it's been pretty much upheld. But what the Supreme Court has also ruled is that you cannot be forced to give up a right to get a government granted privilege. And they have ruled that a driver's license is a privilege, which means that you cannot be forced to give up one of your rights to obtain that privilege. So you can't be forced to give up your Fourth Amendment rights to get a driver's license. Before Real ID, you weren't told to give up your Fourth Amendment rights. So it was constitutional to get a driver's license. Now it's not, and we need to fight that.
Well, look, and the other thing is this: the people that we're up against here, the state government here. In one hand, if they're going to be bragging about it, if they don't think that you are going after them for certain, like if you're interviewing one of these government officials and they want to brag about the technology that they're using in order to infringe on your rights, they are more than able to do that. You remember when Adrian had he did a radio interview with, he went and did a sit down interview with the guy that was in charge of the cameras in Pinellas County. And that guy went on bragging about how the technology worked. But then later on would say, well, they're not doing that stuff. You're just crazy. So if we would say that they are with your driver's license, they took a facial capture image, whatever, which was to be able to take the dots on, the points on your face. So in any camera, they would be able to instantly identify who you were, including in a section with the cameras that are facing you, driving upwards of 55 miles an hour in your car. They would be able to identify who you were. And they were putting this technology out there. Look, they may not have turned it all on yet, but the infrastructure to do this is all there. We're not crazy. They're doing it. How do we know how do we know that they're doing it? Because Adrian talked to the guys as they were installing it in one of the intersections and showing Adrian how it worked. Then you went to the guy that was in charge of it for the Pinellas County Sheriff, and he bragged about how they're going to be able to use this technology. Your ignorance on the matter doesn't change that they're doing it. And if you want to dismiss us as crazy, I guess you have every right to do that in a free society. But remember, that free society is pretty much gone. They're giving you the illusion of having some kind of freedom, but they're literally finding a way to track you every way possible through the cameras that you're going through. How many stoplights are in a county?
How many stoplights are on one street?
Yeah. That's how many cameras they got. Times 4, because it's going one to each, if it's a 4-way intersection, then one's going each way. The cameras they have pointing at you right now.
And I think the overarching issue here is the way that they are implementing things to circumvent already standing laws that protect our rights. The Real ID battle that Adrian is fighting. We're not making the argument that we should not have a driver's license. We're making the argument that what you're requiring us to do circumvents our rights.
Correct.
Just like the militarization of the police force. We're not arguing that you shouldn't have a police force. We're arguing that you should not militarize them because you are circumventing the Posse Comitatus Act by militarizing the police force and making a military force now our police. The entire point of this law was to prevent the military from being conscripted to enforce state law. So instead of trying to get that law by militarizing the police, these are the things that they are doing. They are circumventing the law by creating new problems. They are trampling on our rights in a different way that the law does not cover, which puts us on almost an eternal defensive because we have to be watching every angle to see what they're doing next and how they're circumventing our rights just so they can make their jobs easier and make more money.
Yeah.
I know this has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but I just think it's the funniest thing ever. So Verizon put out a statement on the new net neutrality that we were talking about before, and they put it out in Morse code.
Okay, that's funny. That's actually kind of funny.
That's awesome.
That they put it out. That's like falling down and faking a heart attack.
Yeah.
That's the equivalent of falling down.
Verizon, in protest of net neutrality, put out their official statement in Morse code.
It would have been better if they put it out in binary.
Binary?
0110011111000.
Probably would have been a lot longer.
Oh, much longer.
Much longer. Yeah. So they put it out in Morse code. It's awesome.
Put it out in Morse code. Yeah, that is actually kind of funny. I don't even remotely understand how we haven't started rioting yet. How are we not in the streets at this point? But let's take a break. We get back hour number 3. We'll be on Tan Talk Radio, Tan Talk 1340. But let's get back there. We're going to be talking about Rick Scott and a ton of Tallahassee updates that you really need to know. You're listening to Liberty Underground.
Hi, this is Gary Johnson, and you're listening to the 1787 Radio Network.
Facts about the red light cameras. Fact, you are guilty until proven innocent. The Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution grants you the presumption of innocence. Fact, red light cameras cause accidents. Accidents are up on an average of 40% at intersection with camera. Fact, cameras punish technical foul violations. Over 80% of tickets are written when the red light is on, under one-half. Join the fight at www.banthecams.org. www.banthecams.org.
Liberty starts with a like. Facebook.com/Liberty Underground.
If you received a ticket in Florida, contact Oropesa Law Offices, 800-774-9883 or tacklemyticket.com. Attorney Oropesa understands the stress associated with being charged with a traffic ticket. In many non-criminal ticket cases, there may be no court appearance, no points, and no traffic school. Attorney Oropesa handles criminal violations, DUI, and license suspension matters. Don't face these serious legal matters alone. Initial consultation is free. Call now and you will be advised about any potential defense, constitutional rights violations, the possibility of having your driving privileges restored, or preventing a suspension from going into effect. If you've been classified as a habitual traffic offender, have a driver's license suspension matter, or a pending DUI case, call Oropesa Law Offices now so you can be advised about your particular case. Call 1-800-774-9883 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or visit tacklemyticket.com. Main office in Pinellas County and serving all of the Tampa Bay area. Find out more at tacklemyticket.com. Mention Liberty Underground and get 25% off.
You know Going Postal offers shipping with UPS, FedEx, and DHL International, and they're a full-service post office. And Going Postal is not just your one-stop shop for shipping. They offer copying, laminating, faxing, packaging, and they even have a notary public service. Visit our friends at Going Postal at the following convenient locations: Palm Harbor at the corner of Tampa Road and County Road 1 in the Sweet Bay Plaza, St. Pete on 66th Street just south of Tyrone Boulevard near Publix, and be sure to visit their newest location at 35595 US 19 North at Alderman Road next to Publix in Palm Harbor.
When the unthinkable happens, it doesn't matter if you save money in 15 minutes. It doesn't matter if your neighbor has the same insurance you do. In this moment, what matters is the quality of your independent agent and the company that stands behind them. Auto Owners Insurance has been recognized as highest in customer satisfaction with the auto insurance claims experience 5 years in a row by J.D. Power and Associates. For award information, go to jdpower.com. Call Row Insurance in Newport Richey today at 727-376-0030.
This is Liberty Underground with Alex Snicker, Danielle Alexandra, and Greg Bowen on the 1787 Radio Network.
Well, good morning, Tampa Bay, St. Petersburg, Clearwater. This is Alex, co-host, Liberty Underground, along with me, the Duchess of Doing Stuff, my own personal Wikipedia, Tribley's favorite libertarian, Danielle Alexandre. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Good to hear you're doing good. Also, working the controls here at the Liberty Underground studios, as well as he is doing, the Prime Minister of all things that are sinister, Greg Bowen. How are you doing, sir?
Spectacular.
Oh, he went back to
that, huh?
Bringing it back.
You're bringing it back, going back old school with it, which is nice.
Bringing spectacular back.
Yeah, I'm glad you are. Glad to see that you're doing that. Hopefully everybody's out there doing if you wanted to catch the first 2 hours of the show, this is hour number 3 of the show. If you wanted to catch the first 2 hours of the show, you can go to our YouTube channel, the 1787 Network, or 1787 Network, or you can go to our website, 1787network.com. However, for hour number 3, we are going to be doing a lot of Florida-based stories. And we're going to start with yours and mine's favorite governor, Rick Scott.
So,
By the way, can I just say... transparent governor, by the way. Go ahead. Oh, and can answer varying questions to a very good degree. Go ahead.
So, one of Governor Rick Scott's things that he likes to tout is that how he keeps bringing business here. And while we talk all the time about how, he's bringing these businesses here that don't actually ever seem to show up and giving them huge amounts of taxpayer dollars, Rick Scott has taken a different route when trying to entice to enter the state of Florida. We've here actually started to see Wawas open all over the place, which I have to say, they are great, and I love them. But Rick Scott wanted to bring their headquarters here to the state of Florida, and instead of doling out large amounts of tax dollars and, tax incentives and things like that, he offered to name a city after them.
What?
Wawa. Seriously? We were going to have a Wawa, Florida? As if we don't sound stupid enough in this state to everybody else.
Hold on a second here, man. Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm totally serious. He went to Philadelphia to try to woo Wawa to come.
Try to woo Wawa?
Yeah, to try to get Wawa to come and put their headquarters here in Florida, because they're already opening branches, they're already opening stores all across the state. But he did that to try to convince them. He said he would name a town after them.
Did they bite on that?
No, apparently not. Well, I mean, they're still looking into it. What the CEO of Wawa has says, it wasn't about, tax breaks and things like that. It's really going to be what's best for our associates. So, the Florida has we do not have a state tax, state income tax. There's a lot of benefits to moving to Florida, the weather,
The least of which.
So they are still looking at coming here, but they're being swayed by the town being named after them.
I don't know that I can get down with a Wawa, Florida.
I mean, here's the thing, though. Wouldn't the city that they're going to change the name have to agree to doing this?
Well, that's more my reaction when I read this story. Like, are you just going to take a town and be like, we're renaming you?
You are.
Like, how does he have the authority to do that, though?
Wait a minute. At what point does he ever ask the question, do I have the authority to do this?
Okay.
I got to give the governor kudos for changing tactics and not bribing people with our money, but I'm not sure if this was the right way to go.
You think? Yeah, maybe this wasn't the right way to go.
Who's the lucky town that's going to get renamed?
I rename you.
You're now,
I dubbed thee Wawa.
So it is written, so it shall be done. You are now officially Wawa.
Now, when we went up to Tallahassee to do the rally for Sheriff Finch, we went in to see the governor, and he had flown off to Paris. And, we questioned that on air when that happened, because we were like, why would the governor of the state of Florida need to go to Paris? But apparently he has decided that he needed to go again, because he is headed back to the Paris Air Show in hopes of attracting aerospace jobs, because our normally sunny skies do not do it for the aerospace industry. They need Rick Scott to show up to Paris.
It's almost like a redo of Nixon. Only Scott could go to Paris.
Yeah, only Scott. Like, I don't understand. Look, I understand that, there's this thought process of like, well, the government should be run like a business because then it would be efficient and be all these things. And I used to say that. Like, I used to be like, yeah, we should run it more like a business. There is no way we should run the government like a business in certain aspects. In the fact that this guy goes all around the world trying to get businesses to come over here. The problem is that what he is using is your taxpayer dollars to get there and then to give it to these companies who end up not even coming over here anyway.
The biggest insult to me, I think, when I was reading this story is that he was doing the interview about going to Paris from Philadelphia.
While he's trying to get Wawa.
And renaming towns. Like, are you getting ready to rename a town McDonnell Douglas? Are you getting ready to rename a town like
Raytheon?
Raytheon?
I'm sure that's coming. That's going to be in Pinellas.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe you'll be living in Paris, Florida soon. Who knows?
Yeah. Let me just
Don't
say.
we already have a Paris, Florida, though?
Well, there's a Paris, Texas.
I think there's like a little tiny town.
Maybe.
I'm sure there's a Paris, Florida.
But Rick Scott has gone, and Enterprise Florida has kind of confirmed this. But he did go to Panama, Canada, Brazil, Israel, Spain, the United Kingdom, Colombia, Chile, France, and Japan.
Well, he does use his own private jet for all this, though, doesn't he? We probably pay for the gas.
We probably do pay for the gas, but the jet is probably his.
Yeah. Because didn't he sell the States plane?
I think so. He's flying commercial. I don't know.
He's flying Delta.
You think he's flying Delta?
No. I don't think he knows what Delta is.
No, if I remember correctly, he sold the state plane because he was going to be using his own personal plane to get around. So caring about the fact that we already paid for it and that the next governor might not own their own plane, we're going to sell the state plane because I'm just going to use my own.
Well, I think considering how much money it takes to win an office here in Florida, you're probably going to have to own your own plane.
That might be part of the new criteria.
I'm just putting it out there. What you want to do with that is your business.
That might be a new constitutional amendment that we'll see on the ballot.
You must own a plane in order to win governor for Florida.
Now,
or have access to it.
Ben Wilcox, who is someone that we've worked with on different issues, is he's with the group Integrity Florida, is actually calling for more details on the trip, saying these things are getting out of hand. We need more details to really understand why he thinks he needs to be everywhere but Florida.
Yeah. If you would simply do your job here and get rid of the tax burden and the regulatory burden on the companies that are in Florida already, you could save your trip to going over there to, do whatever it is Skeletor does. And you could literally just stay here, help the businesses here, because, you do enough here by some of the laws that you passed to kind of close down businesses.
You could just stop doing that, and then you wouldn't have to go somewhere else.
It's a good point, Danielle. You're exactly right.
That would really save money because we wouldn't be paying for your gas to go to Paris, and we'd still have the same amount of jobs because you would stop closing down industries and losing jobs.
But that's just crazy talk, though. See, you want no government.
You're one of those crazy anarchists.
Yeah, you want no government for that. That's the argument back and forth for it.
Now, the governor of Pennsylvania, Tom Wolf, did call Governor Scott's trip to Pennsylvania political theater. And considering that while there he offered to name a city Wawa, I would have to agree with on this one.
I'm going to offer to do things for you that I have no right to do.
Yeah. I'm going to name a town after you. Like, how does that even come up in the negotiations?
I don't even know.
Okay. So, we're really thinking about, okay, Rick Scott's like, hold on a second. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a town in Florida, and we're going to name it Wawa, Florida. Then the other guys on the other side, the Wawa people are going,
what?
Can you do that?
Oh, no, I can. We're going to name a town Wawa, Florida. As a matter of fact, we're changing the turnpike to the Wawa Turnpike.
I wish they'd put it near like Weewa, Wichita.
Maybe they would put it near Weewa, Wichita.
And just to sweeten the deal, we're going to ban the use of R's in the state of Florida. We're going to rename the state Florida.
Florida. Yeah, they're gonna. Yeah, that's a good point, Greg. Very good. I really wish you wouldn't have said that out loud though, because you're giving them ideas, and that's wrong for you to do that.
That's the next trip to Philadelphia. He's now going. He's now leaving Paris right now to go back to Philadelphia to sweeten the deal with the ban on the use of the word.
Oh my God! I can't believe I didn't think of that myself.
I think Barbara Walters is actually negotiating the deal. I'm just saying. Just throwing it out there.
I wish the only place he would he either stay at Snake Mountain or be at the gates of Castle Grayskull trying to break in, and that's it.
Although I do have to say, because the next story about Rick Scott, I have one more, and then we're gonna go on to kind of some legislation stuff. He's wearing a suit, and he is wearing that we wear. We're gonna have to stop using those.
No, we still got to use that lapel pin.
I'm sorry. I think we need to just burn them.
All right.
But anyways, so going on more to policy things and the governor, Governor Rick Scott is actually starting to get some critics in the Republican Party. Well, I mean, he's got a lot of critics, but but he's starting to get some more that normally aren't criticizing him, and that is because he is looking to raise taxes. Regardless of what he says in his speeches. But he is looking at raising taxes on all property owners in the state of Florida. He is proposing a $842 million increase for public school funding, and that would largely come just literally from higher property every homeowner in Florida.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Looking to raise property taxes?
Yes.
Because the one thing that the Democrats and the Republicans agree on, that if there is a problem, we don't offer any solutions. We just need to throw more money at it.
Yeah. Education is getting worse and worse every single year, and we're not going to address the issues with Common Core. We're just going to throw hundreds of millions of dollars at it.
And we're going to tax you more rather than going back to using the lottery funds that we're supposed to be using for this.
Right.
Yeah. It's a wonderful world we live
in. These guys, he's going to raise taxes.
Yes.
The guy that ran on, I cut so many taxes, apparently, supposedly, I cut all these taxes. Now that the campaign's over, and then he's going to go ahead and raise on everyone in the state. Because here's the thing. That will raise taxes on everyone in the state.
Right.
I don't care if you own a home. It doesn't matter. Because somebody owns it, somebody's paying for it, and somebody's going to pass that cost on to you, the person that's living in that house, whether it be directly because of taxes or indirectly because the person that owned the house was taxed and they're going to charge you more money. Is going up. Who does that hurt the most?
Well, it's going to help hurt the poor people the most.
It's going to hurt the poor people the most. So Rick Scott, you know what, guy, really, when I always say that you're up there, sucking the life out of, babies, I don't know how I'm being proven wrong here.
Well, and here's the thing, and the reason why it's the people who are right on that line that are barely, just keeping their head above water that are going to be hit the worst. Because those are the people who, while they're staying in their house, they're keeping their bills current, they're just barely making it every month. And so, it's a very, very, razor thin budget that they have, but they're surviving. Those are the ones that are, because they're going to go from surviving to not surviving anymore.
Yeah. And again, these guys are doing it because they waste so much of your money that they need more money to waste.
Right.
And that's what Rick Scott's going to do. They're up there waiting. Here's the thing. He increased the spending. He talked about, we talked about this before. Rick Scott increased the budget to the highest level it's ever been.
Yes.
That's a fact.
Yes.
But paying for that, he's going to have to raise the taxes. Whether you like it or not, that's what he's going to have to do.
Yeah, I mean, basically, taxes have increased. Property taxes have increased every year, but because we had such a dramatic decrease of value, most people didn't see that their taxes had increased because their property value went down, meaning the actual bill at the end of the year was lower than it had been. But the tax rate increased every single year. But now that property values are starting to go up again, people are really going to start to feel these tax increases.
Yep. Yeah, you're going to feel it. Not to mention what's going on with the flood insurance in the state and how that's going to be going up as well. These people that were living right on the edge, you're right, Danielle, from what you said earlier, they're going to be pushed over it. Stay evil though. You're making more libertarians by the day. I appreciate you. I appreciate what you're doing, Rick Scott, because you're totally making more people to understand that the Republican Party of Florida is not for people that believe in liberty and freedom to be at. That there is no rationale whatsoever to be over there, considering you're having your leader, the guy you stand with, is raising taxes on property.
Yeah.
Should be the new campaign slogan, not just for Rick Scott, but for all Republicans. You're going to feel it.
Yeah. Yeah, you're going to feel it.
And it ain't just the tip.
It ain't anywhere near lube for either, just for the record.
So, that's what's going on. It's definitely a tax increase. It's going to, with all of the rhetoric about how, taxes are being lowered, they're not. They're increasing every year, but your property values are down. And that's why, for the most part, the citizens of Florida haven't really felt that. But now your property values are going up. They're going up at a very substantial rate. And because of that, these tax increases are going to start hitting the pockets of every citizen of Florida very, very soon.
Yeah.
And they're going to go up again this year.
Yep, and they're going up again. Get ready for it, folks. It's coming.
Should have voted Wiley.
And one of the main issues driving this is education funding. And a lot of this is because of the implementation of Common Core. And I'm going to go into that update now, but, basically we've established a system that we didn't really know how much was going to cost us. We implemented education standards that we had no idea what the financial impact was on the state, and now we're just realizing the financial impact, and it's much more than we had previously thought. And the price of Common Core keeps going up.
Yeah.
So every time there's a projection, that projection is, wildly wrong and wrong on the very low side. So every time the new projection comes out, it's considerably amount. So, now you have school districts that are, underwater in their spending because they got an education standard forced on them that nobody knew how much was going to cost.
Yeah. Now, before you get, because you've done all the Rick Scott side of what we were going to do, right?
Right.
Okay. Let's take a break then.
Okay.
And that way, because I don't want to. When we get into this, I want to be able to do the whole thing without any kind of a break.
Okay.
So let's take a break here real quick. When we get back, though, this is the information that you need to know. The legislative session is getting started here, at least officially start.
Yeah.
And there's a lot going on in Tallahassee that you really do need to know about, so you can take the right action to make sure that your representatives are doing the right thing in your name instead of the wrong thing in your name. You're listening to Liberty Underground.
Hi, this is Gary Johnson, and you're listening to the 1780 Radio Network.
Facts about the light cameras. Fact, you are guilty until proven innocent. The Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution grants you the presumption of innocence. Fact, red light cameras cause accidents are up on average of 40% at intersection with cameras. Fact, cameras punish technical foul violations. Over 80% of tickets are written when the red light is on, under 1/2 second. Join the fight at www.banthecams.org. www.banthecams.org.
Liberty starts with a like. Facebook.com/Liberty Underground.
If you received a ticket in Florida, contact Oropesa Law Offices, 800-774-9 or tacklemyticket.com. Attorney Oropesa understands the stress associated with being charged with a traffic ticket. In many non-criminal ticket cases, there may be no court appearance, no points, and no traffic school. Attorney Oropesa handles criminal violations, DUI, and license suspension matters. Don't face these serious legal matters alone. Initial consultation. Call now and you will be advised about any potential defense, constitutional rights violations, the possibility of having your driving privileges restored, or preventing a suspension from going into effect. If you, offender, have a driver's license suspension matter or a pending DUI case, call Oropesa Law Offices now so you can be advised about your particular case. Call 1-800-774-9883 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or visit tacklemyticket.com. Main office in Pinellas County and serving all of the Tampa Bay area. Find out more at tacklemyticket.com. Mention Liberty Underground and get 25% off.
You know, Going Postal offers shipping with UPS, FedEx, and DHL International, and they're And Going Postal is not just your one-stop shop for shipping. They offer copying, laminating, faxing, packaging, and they even have a notary public service. Visit our friends at Going Postal at the following convenient locations: Palm Harbor at the corner of Tampa Road and County Road 1 in the Sweet Bay Plaza, St. Pete on 66th Street just south of Tyrone Boulevard near Publix, and be sure to visit this location at 35595 US 19 North at Alderman Road next to Publix in Palm Harbor.
When the unthinkable happens, it doesn't matter if you save money in 15 minutes. It doesn't matter if your neighbor has the same insurance you do. In this moment, what matters is the quality of your independent agent and the company that stands behind them. Auto Owners Insurance has been recognized as highest in customer satisfaction with the auto insurance claims experience 5 years in a row by J.D. Power and Associates. For award information, go to jdpower.com. Newport Richie today at 727-376-0030.
Welcome back to Liberty Underground on the 1787 Radio Network. If you'd like to call the program, well, we're going to let Danielle do the update, so you can't call the program. How about that? Let me set it up first, though.
Okay.
All right. Legislative session is getting ready to start in Tallahassee. There's a lot of bills. Now, committee weeks have been going on for a while. Committee weeks have been going on for a couple months now.
2 months.
And there's been a lot of stuff that's been working through. So this is session starting next week. But, the layout of what's going to be happening is pretty well established at this point.
Well, we're going to be hitting some deadlines. You're going to see most of the bills that are going to be filed will be filed by today. You'll still get a few on Monday.
Yeah.
So you are going to see some bills filed on Monday, but the majority of them have already been filed today, have been filed by today. So, basically 5 o'clock today we'll see, pretty much where everything is. And then Monday will be the, some of the very last minute bills that we see come in. And I always really take a look at the last minute bills because it's like, why have you been holding on to this for so long? And most of the time it's pretty, they were waiting for bill drafting for a long time because bill drafting got way behind this year. But you never know. So I always look at those because those seem to be the ones that, you waited a long time for this one. It has to be something significant.
Yeah. All right. Where we start?
So, we were talking about Common Core, so I figured we'd just start there.
Yeah, good point.
So, basically, Common Core, and for anyone who doesn't know what Common Core, a federally prepared set of education standards for K through 12 students. Now, what most people think is that the standards were mandated to the states. They were not. Every state has the choice of whether to implement Common Core standards or not. But the testing, there is a provision in there that does say that to keep your Title I and Title II funding, you have to year-end nationally standardized test that would be high stakes. Go ahead.
My first question for you is, though, and I know the answer, but I'm going to ask you anyway. What percentage of the budgets of the schools is Title I and Title II money?
About 30 to 40% of the budgets fall in Title I and Title II.
So if you don't do what the federal is going to do, you will lose their threat is that you will lose 30 to 40% of your funding.
Yeah, and it's not going to come in just like, well, we're not money for education materials or things like that. What you're going to see is they could literally withhold money from your transportation budget, from your school budget, from the all of your extracurricular activities, the arts. You won't have music anymore. You won't have art class and things like that. And you won't have school lunches anymore. You won't have buses. These are the things that will get the largest cuts in Title I and Title II.
All right, go ahead.
So these are, kind of critical services to the school.
Maybe.
Possibly.
But
don't tell me what to do.
There's a chance.
And I say critical functions of the school, and we can argue that it's not critical, but when we say critical functions of the school, it is something within the school that if they were to cut, would be outraged.
Yes.
And would not allow them to cut. But then the school is put in a position where parents don't want raised, and you would have to raise taxes in a very significant amount to recover the money that would cut the programs that parents will not allow to be cut.
Yeah.
So they're in this kind of hard place where it's like, well, the parents will go off the deep end if we cut transportation, but they're also going to go off the deep end if we, triple their taxes.
Which the federal government knows.
Right, which is why they do this.
Here's the thing, because the people are paying these taxes now, they're just paying them to the federal government.
Right. So, this is what happens. So the schools are under this, well, wait a minute, we can say no to all the funding, which is what the parents want us to not implement this test. No to the funding, we have to get rid of all the programs that the parents have made a very big commitment that we have to have.
All right. Definitely a rock and a hard place here.
For all of the school districts, I would not want to be a school board member right now.
Yeah.
So one thing that they have to do to keep their Title I and Title II funding is have what's considered what we call a high stakes test. And a high stakes test is any test that stops from moving on to the next grade. So in 3rd grade, in 7th grade, in 9th grade, in 10th grade, not 9th grade, in 10th grade, when you take this test, you will not move on to the next grade unless you get a decent score.
All right.
And also mandated for the Title I and Title II funding is that teacher salary at least 30% based on the student score of the test.
All right.
They call that accountability for teachers.
Okay.
So Florida did adopt what they considered, what they call in the statutes, Next Generation Sunshine State Standards. It used to be defined as Common Core. They pulled the references to Common Core out, but they only pulled the references to the words Common Core out. They kept the actual.
Yeah. I mean, if you really want to know how much some politicians in Tallahassee think that you're dumb, people were complaining that Common Core was bad. So all they did was change the word Common Core to Next Generation Sunshine State Standards.
Right.
Like, that's all they did.
That is all they did whatsoever. And what has now happened is now you hear, because people caught on to the Next Generation Sunshine State Standards, the same standards as Common Core.
Thanks to us.
Now you hear legislative governor say, no, we have Florida standards. Now, where they come up with that term is that Florida standards is what we call the assessment test at the end of the year. We call the curriculum Next Generation Sunshine State Standards. We call the test Florida standards. So because nobody likes Common Core, now nobody likes Next Generation Sunshine State Standards, now they just say Florida standards because they consider if they just keep changing the name, you won't know the difference.
Yeah.
I don't like Rick Scott. Well, what if I changed my name to Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Would that be more palatable to you?
Laugh about that, but that's totally what they did.
That's exactly what they did.
That is what they did. So what's going on? What bills are being proposed this year, and what will those bills do?
So I do have to say that we are not going to get rid of that school districts already have the authority, education curriculum, educational material. But because their funding is based on the end of course exam, and the end of course exam right now is compliant with Common Core, they're choosing Common Core because they have no other choice. And they technically have a choice, but not really. So what we're doing is attacking the test. What we're proposing and what we're supporting is legislation that attacks the test, because that's where we feel we're going to have the most success. So on the Senate side,
has to happen first.
Right, it has to happen first. There's no other way around it. You have to get rid of the test first.
Okay.
So there's now there has been a couple more pieces of legislation that have come out pretty. I have not reviewed them all to the extent where I can really talk about them. So I can be doing that next week because there is going to be some changes in legislation. But up until yesterday, basically, these were the only pieces of legislation that was out. So we had 3 bills in the Senate. Senator Bean's bill, there's a bill by Senator Bean. It really just said that school assessments can take no more than 10 school days per year. It says nothing else. There's no other provisions. It's literally has a few sentences. Forward bill. Senator Legg has a bill that would suspend the negative consequences of the Florida Standards Assessment Test for schools for the 2014-2015 school year, this year. That's it. It would remove the end of course exams, which are different than the Florida Standards Assessment Test. Certain grades have to take the Florida Standards Assessment Test. Other school years, other grades will have to take an end of course exam. This would actually remove the end of course exams, but would require teachers to use a district approved test, or else they would not be eligible for performance pay adjustments. So that means a teacher would be punished for not using an end of course exam, even though technically in the statute exam would be voluntary. It's just if you volunteer not to have it, you're going to be punished.
All right. Again, carrot and stick approach. It looks like the state's learning from the feds.
So it would restructure the student assessment portion of a teacher evaluation from 50% of their overall evaluation to 40%. And then it would limit the classroom time required for testing to no more than 5% of classroom time, and that any school district that was struggling with the implementation of the Florida Standards Assessment Test, because it's all online based, so that means every single student has to be taking this test at a computer, that they can opt for a 1 year, and that would, so that they would, they would not have it count against them for 1 more year. But if they were to do that, the district would forfeit any school recognition funding and would no longer be able to be designated as a high-performing school.
Dang. All right.
So you have some choices. They're just not very nice. Senator Mumford's that we are much more apt to support at this time. Like I said, there's some more legislation on the Senate side that I have to be looking through. But Senator Mumford's bill would suspend the negative consequences for the Florida Standards Assessment until the 2016-2017 year. So you definitely have a lot more time to be implementing, kind of getting your school ready. It would completely eliminate the end of course exams for every grade level without punishing teachers, and it removes the assessment test for 11th grade students. It would restructure student assessment portions of teacher evaluations from 50% to 30%, which is what school superintendents and teachers organizations do recommend. They say 30% is legitimate. It would require state and local assessment to use a minimum amount of classroom time, but it doesn't specify or mandate a certain amount. And it requires the Commissioner of Education to provide an alternate, non-electronic option for the administration of the standardized tests for the districts who infrastructure is just not suitable for a technology-based assessment. So the Florida Standard Assessment Test is completely online. If your school district or your county just doesn't have adequate internet coverage for a large amount of students taking this kind of test, because this is thousands of students all taking it in the same day, that you would be able to go back to the paper and pencil test if your county would want that. Some of the rural counties just don't invest in, the schools don't invest in a large amount of technology when it comes to this, and this would make it to where they wouldn't have to.
All right.
So we do support the Mumford bill so far, but like I said, there's a couple more. Now on the House of Representatives side, Representative Mayfield does have 2 education bills. Representative Mayfield has been a longtime advocate for getting rid of Common Core. She was fighting Common Core before it was implemented, and last year did have the Common Core halt bill, which would have halted the implementation for 2 years while we studied the financial impact on the state of Florida. Well, she has 2 new bills. The first one of her bills would prohibit the Florida Department of Education or a local school district from entering into any agreement that would give up the school district's control over standards and assessments. So basically, if the Florida Department of Education or local school district went into an agreement that would give someone else control over their standards and assessments, the contract would be null and void. They would not be allowed to enter into the contract, and any contracts that they've previously gotten into that would fall under those circumstances would be immediately terminated. Her other piece of legislation would eliminate the mandate on school districts to even administer the Florida Standards Assessment Test. They would now be able to choose from a nationally normed reference pre-2009, which the significance about pre-2009 is that's pre-Common. So this would be any nationally normed reference test that any of the states that were using before the implementation of Common Core. Parents would be able to opt their children out of the school district assessment. Let's say the school district chose a nationally normed reference test that the parent did not approve of. They could opt their child out of the district assessment as long as they made arrangements and paid for the administration of another test. If they liked a different test better, they could absolutely give that test to their students. They would just have to pay for their child to take that test. There would be no consequences to the school district or a teacher evaluation for parents to opt their children out. It requires the Commissioner of Education to determine the percentile scores in the 5 achievement levels for all of the nationally normed reference tests, so that this way, no matter which national test you decided your school district was going to use, that education would have a comparison, so that all the tests would be graded to where they would, you could be able to compare the data from school district to school district, because they would, kind of use the percentiles. They would be putting the percentiles so that it would. So that's what the Mayfield bill would do. We do support both of Debbie Mayfield's bills. I do hear that that a couple of the Senate bills that are on Common Core are the companion bills to these, but I have not read them to see if they are that they are actually the same. And there's a few more bills that have come out that I haven't gone through to actually read full enough to be able to analyze today.
Now, but if you do go to the website libertyfirstfl.org, you will be able to see any of the updates that go on with this, because this is going to have updates on the legislation in Tallahassee. Now, the next one, and only because I realize the time that it takes for each one of these issues, the next one that we're going to go over, I think, should be Amendment 1. Okay. I think that's, out of the importance of them, I think this one's a pretty important one.
Okay. So Amendment 1 was the constitutional amendment that passed in the state of Florida in this last election cycle that would require 33% of the revenue from documentary stamps tax to go to conservation projects. Now, this would be to acquire, restore, improve, and manage conservation lands. So basically, this 33% has to go into a trust fund called the Land Acquisition Trust Fund. And when we went through this process, what we did realize at the start is that nobody actually knew at the state level how much money was going to conservation projects, and that until Amendment 1 passed, they hadn't taken a look and actually compiled that data, and when Amendment 1 passed, they did.
Let me just to reiterate. They didn't even know how much money they were spending on this stuff to begin with. That's a problem. That is such a massive problem that nobody actually took the time to even figure out what they were spending the money on to begin with. I mean, wrap your head around a $77 billion budget, or $77 billion budget.
Yeah, $77.1 billion.
And they can't even itemize it out on what they're spending your money on.
Well, I mean, what they had was that all these different trust funds and the general revenue fund were all spending money on conservation land, but nobody had put those together in one report. So you'd have the report of what general revenue is spending and the report on what the documentary stamps was going to, but you didn't have the cross reports of how much money was actually going to conservation.
Exactly. And how much land they were buying up, though. I mean, they didn't even have a good accounting of that.
Right.
But go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the state of Florida already owns 9 million acres of land for conservation. That does not include land that they use for parks. It does not include land that they use for government buildings. This is simply conservation land. They own 9 million acres, which is about the land mass the size of New Jersey, if you were to put it all together.
Somebody the size of Chris Christie in Florida. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
That's a lot of land.
That is a lot of land.
That's a lot of land. I'm just saying. It's a lot. I ain't picking on the big guys, but I'm just saying it's a lot of land.
Well, I think you're allowed to pick on the big guys.
Well, I'm allowed to because I'm a big guy, so I'm allowed to pick on other big guys. It's like you're allowed to say certain things at race or ethnicity. Well, if you're a bigger guy, then you can make fun of bigger guys. Irrelevant to what's going on in Tallahassee, but I just wanted to make a side note on that.
Side note.
Write that down.
So a significant part of this is going to be, where we're going to be spending the money, but going to be done in trust funds. So it is, for the average person, a little more difficult to track what's all being spent than it was before, because one of the provisions of Amendment 1 is that the money could not be commingled with any other funds. That means that if the Department of Transportation has a conservation project, then they have to have a separate trust fund from Amendment 1 to fund that conservation project, because it can't commingle, it can't be within any other money that the Department of Transportation has. So now you're going to have individual trust funds in all of these different places that's all going to get Amendment 1 money. And it's just, they're setting up the structure right now, and it's looking very, very complicated.
Well, no, and they want it to be complicated on purpose because they want to be able to kind of hide and slide what it is that they're up there. Not to mention this, but here's the other thing. There's multiple reasons why they have to raise property taxes. I know before we talked about Rick Scott wanting to raise property taxes. One of the reasons that that they're trying to do this, or they need to do this, or they don't tell you, is that they're buying up so much land that they're going to get shorter on taxpayers to pay property tax.
Right, and that is a significant problem that we also have to consider, is that every time the government buys it is not considered on the tax rolls anymore. So that means if they're buying land within your county budget now lost money, because whoever was paying the taxes on that land is no longer paying the taxes, because you can't charge the government taxes to pay the government.
Yeah.
Who says? Because whatever they say we can't do or we can do, they find a way to work around that.
Well, and I think that this is one of those things that needs to be said. Look, should we have nice land in Florida? Yeah, absolutely we should. Should we want to make sure that we're taking care of our environment? Yeah, we absolutely should. But under those things that everybody can agree on, that we should be doing these things, they're buying up way more than they need to.
Right.
And they're doing it for various reasons. And they will bend the rules however they want to bend the rules in order to take this land from other people. Like they did it down in They were changing in the Miami area, not in Miami, but in the Miami area, rules in order to say, okay, well, that's now considered swampland and we're going to take it.
Well, and what they also do, and this is some other legislation that we're going to see up there this year, is what they also do is like, okay, we want to buy your land. You say no. And they say, well, okay, the local government is no longer going to issue permits to use your land. So you wanted to develop that and put houses on it? Yeah, you're not going to be able to do that. We're not going to give you your permit.
Yeah. This is why you don't want them in charge so much in everything. But go ahead.
But so this is going to be a huge debate to the session. So basically there's going to be 3 different projected ways to spend the money. Different budgets. The way the House wants to spend the money, the way the Senate wants to spend the money, and the way the governor wants to spend the money. And so the only one that we do know of is the governor's presented budget. He wants $50 million for Everglades projects, $50 million for Springs restoration, $150 million for conservation land acquisition and management, and $177 million would pay off debt obligations from previous conservation work. Now, what we will see over the next couple weeks is the House and Senate, and they're going to be debating the governor's plan based on what their own plans are. So this is something that we're going to be very heavily involved with as this process continues, because our contention is that you own 9 acres of land that is in disrepair, and in some cases is a complete environmental hazard because of the government's own actions, and that if we have to spend this money, it should be to repair the property that is in disrepair and has been neglected, and not be buying any. At the end of the day, why are you going to buy more to just neglect and create an environmental hazard?
You know, and we get this question frequently, and I'm going to ask the question again on the air. What do you mean by disrepair? Like, what? Give me some examples of what you're talking about.
Well, what happens is what you see now, what's going on, and this is one of the larger issues going on, is that the Kissimmee River is basically owned by the government. All the land that the Kissimmee River runs through is owned by the government. What they did, instead of having it be a meandering river down to the Lake Okeechobee, they straightened it out. The Corps of Engineers came in and just made it a straight shot into Lake Okeechobee. Well, the big sugar industries and industries have a large amount of chemicals and fertilizers that are running off into the Kissimmee River, and that used to filter through naturally as the river ran through this meandering, because the sediment and the rocks and everything really did a great job of filtering out those chemicals before they got to Lake Okeechobee.
It's what nature is intended for it to be able to do.
Right. That's why rivers meander. It's a great filtering tool, which was just created by. Once they straightened it out, it's not being filtered out anymore. So you have all of this runoff and all of this fertilizer going straight shot into Lake Okeechobee. The water is coming into Lake Okeechobee way too fast. Lake Okeechobee can't handle the water all coming in at one time, and it's polluted water. So Lake Okeechobee overflows. It overflows into the Everglades, into the Indian River Lagoon. And it is now killing natural estuaries because it is changing in those waters.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. If you want to talk about the arrogance of man in this one, or the arrogance of government on this one, they took something that was working, straightened it out because they thought that they were so high-minded that they could do this, not even understanding the consequences of the actions in which that they took. And because of that, they ruined other things in other parts of the state because of this. I mean, we want to talk about unintended consequences. Look, bringing it back to a more natural state is a good thing. Maybe the government should start doing that. Again, the biggest polluter is not a business, it's the government.
And what's happened now is you have many rivers that are polluted. You have many, estuaries that are dying. We've created an environmental hazard where even if, people can't even go into the water because it's so polluted. And that's happened up in the St. Johns River. We've seen the same thing. They've given permits, large permits, for companies to come in and pollute the St. Johns River. So you can't go into the St. Johns River as an individual because it's so polluted it would make you sick. And this is land owned by the government. So the government says, well, we own this land. We're going to give you a permit to dump your environmental hazardous material onto our land that we own. We're going to make it an environmental hazard and then tell the citizens that we need to buy more land because of all the pollution.
You want to talk about the government creating a problem and then using that problem to take away more of our rights? This is a great example of this. And again, what they do is they also take out. Look, one of the things that libertarians believe more than anything else is property rights, correct? We believe in property rights. But property rights doesn't explain... property rights is how you can explain how you tackle environmental issues. Because if someone pollutes land, then that company should be held responsible and accountable for it and should have to pay to clean that thing up. The problem is that what the government did is they say, okay, you can pollute if you pay us money ahead of time. But the money that you have to pay them is now the cost of doing business, to where if they were sued in a court of law, then the judgment that could go against that company could be enough to put them out of business. You're not able to do that now. And this happens whether it's Democrats or Republicans. They're both polluters. I know they want to claim that they're not, but they totally are.
So in summary, Tallahassee is why we can't have nice things.
Yes. Absolutely. Then we do have some transportation things going on. This is one of the shorter ones. I know we're running out of time. But the red light camera repeal bill will not be heard in the House or the Senate this year. It hasn't moved anywhere, so the sponsors of those bills have kind of moved on. What we are going to see is some of the other things that would protect us with these kind of camera things. So there is a House bill, HB 571, which will protect from automated license plate readers and electronic tracking. We will have some amendments that will go in to make sure that red light cameras are calibrated correctly, that we're not getting the right turn on red camera tickets and things like that. So basically what we're doing is trying to attack this problem in the amendment process to make it to where it's so not profitable to have red light cameras that you will just not use them anymore because it's not profitable anymore because of having to maintain the cameras to make sure that people aren't getting tickets unnecessarily.
Wow. That's a whole lot of words right there.
No,
a lot of words right
I'm like
there.
the micro machine man right now. I'm talking so fast to try to get this all done.
If you want more information, there's a lot of other things we could have gone over a bit, but you only have so much time. We try to go over the most important stuff. LibertyFirstFL.org. If you go there, you'll be able to read information on a lot of different issues and a lot of different subjects, which is a good thing to do. So definitely want to be up to speed on that. Website 1787network.com. If you like what you're listening to, please go to there, make a donation, let us know how much you care, because again, we're not, as you can tell by the subject matter that we're bringing up, you would imagine that no big corporation would actually want to promote the show, just so you know. The website, though, again, 1787network.com. Go there, take a look. I'm sure you'll like what you see. Another good show this very well. Very proud of you two for the work that you've done this week, and you should be congratulated. So there you go. All right, guys, we'll see you next week.